Sound check 1 2 3. Sound check 1 2 3.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Public Works Committee of May 4th, 2026. May the 4th be with us. As we all do have quorum present for today's meeting, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I want to acknowledge that joining us virtually is Councillor Matt Francis. In the chambers is Councillor Beattie, Councillor Pauls, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Maureen Wilson, Councillor Crutch, Councillor Huang, and Councillor Kassar. Could I please have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda that is before committee? Thank you, Councillor Huang, Councillor Beattie. And that is, any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, then that's before committee for a show of hands vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, recognizing Councillor Jackson and Councillor McMeekin in the room and voting in approval for the agenda. Moving forward to declarations of interest. Any to declare? Seeing none, we'll move on to adoption of the minutes of our previous meeting, which was held on April 13, 2026. Mover and seconder on the minutes. Thank you, Councillor Crutch, seconded by Councillor Huang. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, it's also before committee for show of hand votes. Those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. On to delegations. Before we begin our delegations for today, members are reminded that questions are for delegates for clarification purposes only and not for debate. A note to our delegates, you have 5 minutes to complete your delegation. You'll hear a tone at the 4-minute mark, and that is just a reminder to let you know that you have about a minute left to finish up your delegation. First up, we have 6.1, which is Rochelle Larocque, respecting item 10.3, exemption from municipal sewer and drain bylaw number 23-234 and waterworks bylaw number 23-235 at 909 North Waterdown Drive, development application 25 CDM-2020-11. So if you could make your way, you're virtual. Thank you. So I can hear you, I can see you. You have 5 minutes. Please proceed.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair. My apologies for not being in person today as I am in OLT mediation. But my name is Rochelle Larocque. I'm a partner with the Biglieri Group and a registered professional planner. I represent Live Communities, who are the owners of the property at 909 North Waterdown Drive. Just a bit of history on the property. This represents phases 3 and 4 of Live's Kaleidoscope development, which are their last 2 phases within Waterdown. Phase 3 fronts onto North Waterdown Drive, while Phase 4 is located to the rear of the property and will be accessed through the Phase 3 area and through the phased lands through shared access agreements. Conditions of site plan approval were provided to this development through an OLT-mediated settlement in December of 2023, and final site plan approval was provided by the city in January of 2025. Phase 3, which is currently under construction, has 84 townhouse units, with servicing also being installed and 3 blocks of townhouses nearing the end of completion. Phase 4 will be the second phase in this stage of their development, is at the rear of the property and will be developed in the future with a maximum of an 8-story mid-rise development. Each of these 2 phases will be a separate condominium corporation, which is part of the reason why we're in front of you and why this motion is in front of you. The 2 condominium corporations will have shared access, so a shared driveway for both phases. They will share outdoor amenity area and stormwater management facilities. These shared utilities, shared access, shared amenity areas will be created through agreements between the 2 condominium corporations and registered on title. We've been working with city staff for over the past year to come to a resolution regarding the wording in bylaws 23-234 and 23-235, as both condominiums have been planned to be serviced through one connection from North Waterdown Drive. It should be noted that the servicing permits were provided in the fall of 2024, and the water main commissioning was provided by the city in February of 2025. At the request of city staff, we have investigated if separate servicing could be provided to each of these condominium corporations. However, this is not feasible nor reasonable due to the constrained nature of the site and the fact that services have already been installed, and any requirement of additional servicing lines would result in the demolition of units which are currently under construction and will be ready for occupancy by homeowners shortly. We would encourage the Public Works Committee to support this motion as the servicing design is currently constructed, has been commissioned, and will be able to allow us to move forward with the condominium registration. Any maintenance agreements for infrastructure will be created and registered on the title of the land and will be between the two condominium corporations, much like the access agreements, which will also be required to provide Phase 4 with access to North Waterdown Drive. I'm available for any questions should members of the committee have any.
Thank you for your delegation. Committee members, any speakers on the delegation? Seeing none, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Next up, I need a mover and second to receive the delegation. Councillor Pauls and Councillor McMeekin, thank you both. All in favor, show of hands. Any opposed? That carries. Next up on our delegation list is Jen Baker, Hamilton Nationalist Club, respecting report PW 26028, Safari Road Municipal Class Environmental Assessment. Jen's joining us virtually as well. Thank you, Jen. You know the rules. You have 5 minutes. If you could just say good afternoon so I can test that I can hear you.
Good afternoon.
We can hear you and see you, so please proceed.
Okay, thanks. Wish I could join you, but if I start coughing, you'll understand why I'm not there. So hello, members of the Public Works Committee. My name is Jen Baker, General Manager of the Hamilton Naturalist Club. Thank you for letting me share comments on item 9.2 in your agenda. For those who don't know, Hamilton Naturalist Club is a 107-year-old charitable organization with over 400 members dedicated to the study, appreciation, and conservation of our wild plants and animals. We are strongly urging you to keep Safari Road closed between Valence and Kirkwall Roads. This section of road runs through a wetland that has been recognized provincially and in the city's official plan. This important wetland provides habitat for countless species, including at least 3 federally and provincially recognized species at risk, which have been documented using the wetland during their breeding season. Unfortunately, there have been multiple records on iNaturalist of this section of road being a roadkill hotspot. This loss of biodiversity is concerning with our biodiversity crisis that has been recognized by the City of Hamilton through the Biodiversity Action Plan, which is a multi-stakeholder collaborative plan to protect and restore Hamilton's biodiversity. Hamilton is also a signatory to the Montreal Pledge, Cities United in Action for Biodiversity. The BAP identifies four key threats to biodiversity. One of these is fragmentation of natural areas, particularly by roads. An action that the city has committed to is 3.1, which will investigate, identify, and prioritize wildlife corridors, particularly where roads bisect core areas identified within the natural heritage system, and respond by investigating appropriate best management practices and tools. In Action 7.5, the city committed to consider the Biodiversity Action Plan when initiating city projects and studies, looking for opportunities for mitigation of key threats to local biodiversity. We see no evidence of the BAP being considered during the planning for this project. This is concerning to HNC, a BAP partner, as this seems to be a tremendous opportunity for the city to meet its biodiversity commitments. Instead, it appears that biodiversity commitments have not even been considered. HNC suggests removing Safari Road as an official truck route. Trucks have found alternative routes over the last 5 years, including Regional Road 97 to the north and Highway 5 to the south, both of which are already official truck routes. We believe the integrity of this wetland should not be further compromised to provide a faster route when there are parallel roads that can and have been used since the road has intermittently been closed for several years. The costs and work involved to restoring this 2.5 kilometer section of road are estimated to be between $8 to $9 million minimum. The potential impacts from a rapidly changing climate could mean that regular repairs might be needed at additional cost and harm to the wetland and the species that depend on it. Drivers have adapted to Safari Road being closed, but it seems like the city has not yet adapted to meeting today's reality of the climate and biodiversity crises, and the need to be open to adapt plans and routes. Roads do not belong in wetlands because wetlands want to be wet, and so will flood regularly. We have a chance here to fix this small section of road while also meeting commitments the city has made. Wetlands flood, and engineering isn't always the fix, especially with increased flooding becoming the norm. We believe keeping Safari Road closed would honor the city's commitment to biodiversity, save taxpayers the cost of re-engineering and rebuilding and maintaining this road. If the road is reopened, the city's commitment to biodiversity protection and restoration needs to be leading the final design planning. This must include, at a minimum, exclusion fencing along the full width of the wetland and wildlife crossing structures to allow free access for all wildlife to prevent further roadkill. The city will need to consult with local and regional experts to determine the best type of passages that will meet the needs of the wildlife that need to cross through the wetland. HNC appreciates your consideration and asks to be kept informed as decisions are made on this project. Thank you.
Thank you for your delegation. Committee, any questions for the delegate? Seeing none, may I please have a mover and seconder to receive the delegation? Moved by Councillor Crutch, seconded by Councillor Huang. Thank you both. All those in favor, show a hand and vote to receive. Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries. Thank you. Thank you for your delegation. On to item 7 of our agenda, items for information. First up is 7.1, PW 22079K, which is our Accessible Transportation Services Performance Report. May I please get a mover and seconder to put the report on the floor? Moved by Councillor Paul, seconded by Councillor Beattie. Thank you. And Director of Transit, Nancy Purser, is available if there's any questions. So committee members, are there any questions? Please begin populating the speakers list. Otherwise, we'll just move to the vote to receive the report. Okay. No questions. Show a hand vote. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries. On to 7.2, PW 25068A, Rural Broadband Expansion Plan Update. May I please get a mover and seconder to put this report on the floor? Thank you, Councillor Cassar, seconded by Councillor Huang. And then again, if there's no questions, thank you for populating the speakers list. It's been moved and seconded. First speaker on the list is Councillor Cassar.
Yeah, thanks. And through you, Chair, maybe just a quick overview for everyone listening, and then I'll have a question. Thank you.
Through the Chair, Brian Hollingworth, Director of Engineering Services. This is the next update on our report on the rural broadband service. You'll recall we brought a report to Public Works Committee in September 2025. Since then, we have had another meeting with Rogers to further the discussions on the program. We learned some different things in that meeting. We heard about their alternative service, the 5G service, which is providing coverage across the rural area today, maybe not to the speed that dedicated fiber would be, but it does exist. We also have reached out proactively to Infrastructure Ontario and the Ministry of Energy and Mines to confirm the status of the rural broadband program, because it was started in 2021 and it's been going on for a while. They suggested that they will be providing some further updates on the program in the spring of 2026. That's now, but we haven't heard anything. So we're still in a holding pattern. We haven't received a detailed application from Rogers. We still have some questions around the rural side ditch plowing and the implications of that on our ability to maintain our roadways. So that's the update, and happy to take some questions.
Yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Yeah, just a question about 5G, because it's mentioned at the beginning of the report. And for those who may be reading in the public or heard that summary, is it being suggested that possibly using 5G service as a substitute for home broadband is a solution? Because if so, I think there'd be concern from the rural community who are looking, as it's pointed out in the report, to get the economic benefits and quality of life benefits from having high-speed internet. And it just reads that actually might be a solution, and I'm not aware that 5G cellular service is a solution for a fiber connection for high-speed internet. So maybe if you could elaborate on that through you, Chair.
So I can elaborate, and I will, through the chair, qualify that I'm not speaking on behalf of Rogers as to what their business strategy is. But I do note that the 5G does meet the requirements of the original rural broadband program. So it's a 50-10 upload download. I'm not a technology expert, but I would agree with you, Councillor, that the fiber to home or fiber to business, this is intended on businesses, not residences, is probably a better service. But I think it comes down to where they're willing to direct their resources in terms of this program.
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Chair, I appreciate that comment and understand you can't speak on behalf of Rogers, but I think it was just important to get that on the public record because it probably would catch the attention of individuals who are maybe thinking that they would need to have cellular service instead of a hardline connection. But understanding more work is to come and there are no decisions being made. This is just an update. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no other speakers on the speakers list, it's been moved and seconded and before committee to receive the update. It's a show of hand vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries. On to PW 26018 or 2025 Annual Water Main Break Report. Could I get a mover and seconder to put this on the floor? Councillor Cretch, seconded by Councillor Huang. And first up, we have Councillor Cretch. Nope, I lie. Councillor Maureen Wilson was number one on the list.
Number one in your heart. Number one ward. Thank you, Chair. If I could, some initial questions just on definitions. Could I just give it, first of all, an explanation between that which is accounted ground movement, what does that mean, versus corrosion? And then another explanation of the difference between transmission water mains and distribution water mains, through the chair.
So through the chair, Nick Winters, Director of the Hamilton Water Division. Just noting that we have a number of experts from Hamilton Water Engineering Services who are here today, so I'll direct that question to Dave Alberton, Manager of Water Distribution.
Through the chair, Dave Alberton, Manager of Water Distribution. I'm going to answer the questions the way they came through. So ground movement is what we see during the winter months when you have the freeze-thaw cycle. The ground is moving as the frost is penetrating into the ground, which is putting extra stress on top of the water main. That is what we classify ground movement. Corrosion, we do see areas in the city that have corrosive soil, and that soil that is sitting on top of the water main is starting to eat away at the water main, and it will create a hole in the water main, and that would then surface to the ground, and we would find that water main break through corrosion, as that's how we're classifying that one there. The difference between transmission water main and local distribution water main, transmission water main we classify as any water main that is 400 millimeters and greater, and that water main is bringing large volumes of water throughout the city, taking water from our drinking water plant, and they're bringing it to reservoirs and towers around the city. And the local water distribution mains are the water mains that are less than 400 millimeters, and they are the water mains that you find in your residential area that is bringing water from the transmission mains to the local houses. So those are the smaller water mains, and they do tend to break more frequently than the transmission mains.
Thank you, Manager Alberton. That was really helpful. So could I ask then, with those definitions in mind, if I go to, I think it's Appendix F, the bar chart at the top, is, what is that telling me? And I do recall after 2018, when I was first elected, someone in Hamilton Water telling me something that kept them up at night as a consequence of the transmission and or the distribution. But I don't recall anything, the details further than that, through the chair. What is this picture telling me?
So through the chair, I'm happy to take that one. What the graph is telling you for Appendix F, there are 3 bars there, and it is separating our water main inventories by age. And so the first bar there is telling you that we have around just over 400 kilometers of water mains that are 1950 and older. The second bar is telling you that we have around 600 kilometers of water main that is aged 1951 to 1980, and then the final bar is telling you that we've got around 1,100 kilometers of water mains that are 1981 or newer. The colors on there, the orange is our distribution water main, so those are your local water mains that properties are connected to and service from, and the blue is our transmission water mains. As Manager Alberton had mentioned, the water mains that are moving large volumes of water from one area of the city to another. And I will mention, and it might have been me years ago talking about concerns about risk. We are concerned about risk associated with the age of infrastructure in our water system in a number of different areas. This report and this graph in particular is speaking to water mains that are getting quite old, but we also have plans. Some of the water mains that are in particular, and Councillor Huang would be particularly familiar with these, are water mains that run through the pipeline trail from the Woodward Avenue water treatment plant towards downtown, and have been on the ground for a long time, some going back to the 1880s. Thank you, Councillor. There is some comfort. I mean, in those days, a lot of the infrastructure was built, overbuilt from a construction standard, and so it was proven to last a lot longer than engineers would have projected it to last. However, we have seen some catastrophic breaks within that pipeline trail over the past several years. And we know that it's time to be getting after rehabilitation of those water mains, some of the oldest that are here in the city of Hamilton. And just to finish this off and to give committee hopefully some confidence, we have implemented programs to achieve that. We have ramped up our critical water main inspection program, which is looking at those transmission mains, which are critical components of our water system without a lot of redundancy. So we're inspecting them more frequently to get an idea of whether or not we have challenges from a risk perspective, and in particular with some of these oldest water mains, those are being programmed for rehabilitation or replacement as early as 2028, if I remember the current schedule for 2 of the water mains in the pipeline trail.
I think I'm at time. However, if I could just, in fairness, plant 3 questions for you to ruminate before I get back on. My first question is, when I did the rough math, if I look at the original older city from wards 1 to 8, almost 70% of the breaks are happening in that city. If that math is correct, and then I'm looking at the blue, the transmission would be really worrisome, I'm assuming. My question is going to be, how are we informing our budget process in a way that reflects this reality in terms of addressing what I think is our responsibility, so we don't end up like Calgary or Montreal. So I'll let you, that's my question when I come back on. Thank you.
Okay, as staff mull that over, Councillor Wilson, you'll get your answers on the second time. Next up, we have Councillor Crutch.
Thanks very much. Just firstly want to say I appreciate the fact that there's a couple of other charts in here that were in last year's report that I asked for to make it simpler to see the math across wards, how it breaks down, where water main repairs are being done, so we understand geographically how it stacks up. And quite a lot are being in the lower city if you look there, from wards 1 to 5, being only a third of the wards, the majority of the water main breaks are happening in the lower city. So it's good to be able to see that a little more clearly. One thing I noticed year upon year here is that the cost for water main breaks in Ward 1 is the highest. And so I know I asked this last year, and we had a conversation, and I talked to Director Hollingworth offline about this a bit in terms of the way that we do things, how we reline or choose to replace, whether we can get ahead of some of these things, the nature of emergencies and so on. And I think right now we're kind of working at a very even system. My question is, meaning like it's just as useful for us, slightly more advantageous for us to do relining than it is to do replacement, so we continue to reline. So I don't have that question again, but can you maybe explain, which I don't think I asked last year in any good detail, why is it that in Ward 1 we do see so much of a cost there specifically geographically in our city?
Through the chair, Ward 1 did see the highest cost as part of the 2025 water main breaks. And a lot of the cost associated with repairing the water main breaks is the final restoration. And as part of 2025, the $634,000, a lot of that was associated with the final restoration of a water main break or multiple water main breaks where the excavation was large. So if I think about the one water main break near McMaster, that was an extensive restoration, which would be very expensive to complete the final restoration, which would have bumped up the numbers for Ward 1.
Thanks. My last question is about large restorations, so thanks for broaching the subject. There are a couple of water main breaks in recent years in Ward 2, especially one on James Street North near Mulberry that was kind of a geyser and flooded the street, and then there was a large patch and several patches. And when you look at James Street now, after a series of water main breaks, and then we see asphalt patching on those spaces. The way I understand what happens is we have different kinds and grades of asphalt we're using. Sometimes it's immediate, where we're trying to just patch something. But in a large hole like that, we have to do something a little bit more deliberate. When we end up with a series of patches, we see weaknesses then when the seams are happening. How do we mitigate and understand this and report this and deal with it? Because when a patch that's applied in a large area is then combined with other patches in a large area, over a period of time, when does it get to the point where we say we have to reconstruct this road, and how is that coordinated? Because when I've been just recently walking up and down James Street, including with the new director, it was kind of obvious that there were a lot of patches from these types of events, leading to the point where the whole street felt like a patch. So I'm just wondering if you could comment on, from your perspective, sort of the stages that happen, right? So in larger sections, how we address those larger sections, how that work happens.
Through the chair, we got a number of different areas of influence on the bench here, so I'll take a first cut at it. You're correct in describing the road cut program. Most road cuts are due to either a water main fix or a utility that gets patched up in the interim to hold it together, usually using cold rolled asphalt. It's kind of temporary. And then that gets put into a program where we do the permanent road cut. And we've got a contractor on board that basically is working every day across the city to do those more permanent cuts. We do look at the type of infrastructure underneath, if it's concrete road base, et cetera, and inform our permanent repair strategies on that basis. And then I think to your direct question is, where is that critical point where you've got so many patches? And that would feed into our pavement inspection program, which measures roughness and the condition of the road. And Dipankar can elaborate on this a little bit more, but it will eventually show up on the program for resurfacing or full repair.
Okay, thank you. I think I understand enough about what I was asking to get a sense that there's two different stages, if I understand what you said. Stage one is immediately trying to address that situation by filling the hole in with some asphalt. Then there's a cut program that goes by and does some kind of nicer job. Is that my general understanding of what you're saying? One is kind of we cover the hole, and the second one is we go back and cut it nicely and make sure it's structurally sound. That's helpful. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councillor Beattie.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Thank you for the report. I'm sorry my back is to the hardworking individuals that have put this together. Good to see everybody and the effort that you put into this. And I do want to front load this by saying that I do have a meeting scheduled with Director Winters and his team to delve into this in a little more detail. But at a high level, Community Avenue, Pinelands, Grays Road, Green Road. In the last 4 years that I've been sitting here receiving these reports, those three roads are always on this list. Predictably, one may assume that we will continue to see these problem areas on the list. I am encouraged that we see a plan to make some permanent changes for upgrades starting in around the window of 2029, 2031. But in some cases, predictably, we're going to continue to see water main failures on major thoroughfares for the next 6 or 7 years. Like we can almost plan, you can almost set your watch to it. I'm just trying to get an idea of the decision-making behind the scenes that may occur in trying to accelerate some of these. If we know that the water main system is failing on these streets, they're constantly breaking, what do we do to try to move things up a little faster on the list so that we don't continually spend bad money repairing bad infrastructure? How soon can we maybe make a change to get in there and do a permanent upgrade so we stop losing money to ongoing maintenance costs of this? Through the chair.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor, for the question. And I believe a field did a similar question when we brought the 2024 report. And so there is a constant balancing act within our water distribution asset portfolio about what needs the most attention at what point in time. And there are a lot of factors that go into thinking about what is the appropriate time for rehabilitation or replacement of infrastructure. One, we know that the city and our taxpayers and ratepayers get the best value for projects when we marry full road reconstruction with replacement of the subsurface infrastructure at the same time. And so a part of our engineering construction program is looking to program those opportunities so that we can do that full reconstruction and provide the best value for the money that we're entrusted with in spending. There are other factors that could push out water mains in particular that are showing signs of their age, such as if there's coming growth in an area and we're waiting for confirmation of what replacement of a water main would look like. A lot of times we're not just replacing a pipe like for like. A lot of the times we're upsizing that infrastructure to make sure that we can service growth in that area, and those studies do take time. So we find many situations where, yes, we recognize that we've got a challenge with an aging water main, but we're still waiting on more information, again, to make sure that we're spending money wisely when we come in for a replacement and a likely full road reconstruction at the same time. So there's a factor. From a prioritization perspective, generally, not exclusively, but almost 99% of the time, the local water distribution mains we can fix in a timely manner. I hope I don't jinx anything, but I don't recall a situation in my career where we had residents or businesses without water for an extended period of time because of a local distribution failure. And so we do have that ability to come in quickly, fix it, keep everything flowing, and make sure that there's no loss of service, which is the way that the system was designed. There's a fair amount of redundancy in that local distribution system. However, there are cases where if we have water mains that are fronting critical sensitive facilities such as hospitals or other care facilities that are showing that type of age, that would be a reason to prioritize a replacement, because we can't tolerate the risk of potentially putting those types of facilities out of water for even short periods of time. The rest of the balancing act is really, we see water mains reacted differently year over year. So yes, we have a number of water mains on our radar where they're showing a break or two breaks per year in different areas of the city. And we get those programmed through for rehabilitation, whether that is lining, so a less invasive method of rehabilitation where we're not digging up the entire road, or full road reconstruction. Those, moving forward, those projects generally takes 3 to 5 years from the initial conceptual, we need to replace or rehabilitate this water main, getting it through engineering design to tender and award for construction. I apologize, I just lost my train of thought there. There are opportunities, though, for acceleration in certain areas, and we're always looking for those opportunities because we want to minimize maintenance costs. We don't want to go out and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars repairing a water main, repairing the road over and over again, and finding that balancing act for the right time to go in with an intervention is something that between the engineering team and the Hamilton Water team, we're constantly talking about. And we do see water mains move up and down that prioritization list on a yearly basis based on what we're actually seeing in the field from a break and a repair perspective. And so we do have those conversations. As we see things change, then we will reprioritize and put those into the budget per that prioritization. And I hope that answers the question. I know it was a lot.
It was about a 5-minute answer, so thank you. If I may indulge for one final question. Just in terms of presumably some folks in Wardtown are watching this with interest, particularly in these communities, Grays Road, Green Road, Community Avenue. When there's a failure on a main or multiple failures, we have to go in and make repairs. And repairs are not, from an engineering perspective, I would imagine, ideal because we're not actually dealing with it as a system, it's localized. But is there any possibility, and this is just a layman asking the question, that it perpetuates, meaning that one failure now loosens, like a lot of this is due to loose soil conditions. A failure here loosens the soil, and then you can't quite put it back together as it was, which then causes a failure a meter away because of loose soil, which then perpetuates and causes another failure due to loose soil. And the whole thing just kind of moves down the line, and it's just repair after repair, loose soil condition after loose soil condition. Does one, in theory, does it perpetuate the other, or is that maybe me dreaming on my part?
Through the chair, Councillor, that does happen. However, the team, when they're making the repairs to the water main, they will bed the pipe at the end. So they're going to go ahead and they're going to put some stone underneath the pipe, make sure that it's laying flat, making sure that there's no real room for the pipe to bounce up and down, I guess, when the ground is shifting. But it does happen. We've seen, a car strike a fire hydrant, and then 2 days later, a water main break shows up down the street. So those transients, I guess you want to call them pressure transients, challenges with people striking infrastructure, you could see a break happen a meter down, 2 meters down at a later date.
Okay. Thank you so much. Been really informative, and look forward to having a conversation with the team soon. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Beattie. Next up, we have Councillor Jackson, followed by Councillor Pauls, and then second time, Councillor Maureen Wilson.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chair Nan. I just want to say, first of all, complimentary. Manager Alberton, you and your team are outstanding in terms of communication to my community and my office when there is a water main break, and as well estimated time of repair and completion, and when it may go beyond what your original estimate might be, you and your team are constantly communicating, and I'm deeply, deeply grateful for that. Question I have through you, Chair Nan, to either Senior Director Winters, Director McCauley, or Manager Alberton. Restoration seems to be in a two-phase program, and it sometimes is a little bit frustrating for my community, and I'll give you an example, and then I'll hopefully get an answer. Chair Nan, first of all, once the water main break is done, I believe Hamilton Water just does a coal patch, just does a quick a restoration as simple as possible to cover the hole that was dug to fix the water main break, number one. When that happens, often, shortly after, that area begins to sink and it becomes dangerous for motorists traveling over it. So my question overall to any one of those three gentlemen, Chair Nan, is this. First of all, does Hamilton Water keep a track of, after they have repaired, even in a temporary way, a particular location to come back every week, every second week, to ensure that that area is not sunken down to a dangerous level? And or following that, in phase 2 of restoration, when do they hand it over to corridor management to do a complete and proper and fulsome restoration? Through you, Chair Nan, please, whoever wants to respond.
Through the chair, Councillor Jackson, that is correct. There is the 2 phases of restoration. So there's the temporary restoration right after the water main break has been repaired, which is coal patch, a little bit of a heave, to allow it to sink a little bit. And yes, those locations are tracked. They are tracked. They are sent to the engineering services team for permanent restoration. The team goes out once a week on average to go look to make sure that they are safe. We do respond to emergency calls as well. If we get a call from a resident through the CC3, through the councillor's office, where there is some concern about the safety of the cut, the shape of the cut, we will go out, make sure it's what we classify as in good condition. If we need to top it up, we'll top it up. And then over a period of time, and we can let the team from engineering services can highlight the information, but it's usually within 16 weeks. They have to let the time for the cut to settle a little bit. It needs to dry out a little bit. If you do a restoration right away, right after the water main break, there's a chance that it could sink afterwards. So for the most part, within that 10 to 20 week period, those cuts should be restored. In the wintertime, you'll see the cuts get in a little worse shape. As a plow goes by, we have the little hump, the plow will be taken away. When it rains a lot, same thing. Some of the nice heave that we would have would lose its shape because of the elements.
Okay, thanks, Manager Albertson. You've raised my comfort level. You've explained further. I'm grateful. And so it could take as much as 4 months, 16 weeks, for corridor management to complete the restoration in a wide swath and properly and in its fulsome. It may take as much as 4 months, and is that simply because of volume? That's my last question, Chair Nan, to the manager.
Through the chair, I believe our typical target is within 1 to 2 months. 4 months would be, I think, on the extreme side of things. And if we want any stats, I have Manager Dave Lamont on the line who could provide some stats on numbers, but it's literally thousands and thousands of cuts, and the contractor tries to group them a little bit so that they're not bouncing around the city, and they can do them efficiency, which is part of the delay, our planning work, and it is also volume and sometimes time of year as well, whether they can get out there and do it properly. Given the weather conditions. Thanks.
Chair Nan, I like Director Hollingworth's answer better of 2 months versus 4 months, but I'm very respectful of Manager Albertson as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councillor Pauls.
Thank you, and through the chair. I don't have my glasses, so I hope I could read the numbers correctly. On Appendix B, to report to PW 26018, I'm looking at the wards, all the number of water breaks. I know water breaks caused by old infrastructure, weather-related. We know that. We've had a horrible winter. My first question is, I look at Ward 7, it says 37 breaks, and then I look at Ward 6, it's only 12. And I'm just wondering, does he have better roads than I do? So I'm just wondering, first of all, is that for this year, 37 water breaks in Ward 7? That was my first question. And second is, the weather affects all roads, so why is Ward 7 the most? And we spent almost $500,000, 440,000. I can't read, I don't have my glasses.
Through the chair, yes, Councillor Pauls, 37 water main breaks occurred in 2025 in Ward 7. And as part of Appendix B, Ward 7, if you're comparing it to Ward 6, has the older infrastructure. It has 26 kilometers of water main that is 1950 and older, and Ward 6 has only 10 kilometers of water main that is of 1950 and older. So if you look across the columns there, older infrastructure tends to break more often. And Ward 7 does have elevated levels of kilometers of water main that are older than 1950.
Wow. I know I have the most populated ward. Now I have the most water main breaks. It's not a good thing. But anyways, then I look at, I can't believe Ward 9 only had 4 this year, which is amazing. So I guess it's because of the length and how old they are. That's the 2 reasons. Is that right?
Through the chair, water main breaks for a bunch of different reasons. Ward 9 does have newer infrastructure, 75 kilometers. The majority of of the water mains in Ward 9 are 1980 and younger. So they do have newer water mains in Ward 9.
So my last question, as we fix them year by year, we should start having less because when we fix them, we put new water mains, is that right? So.
Through the chair, repairing a water main break does not add, we're not adding a new section of water main. When we replace or reline a water main, then the structural integrity is regained. So by putting a clamp or replacing a small section of pipe, we could still see water main breaks occur on that segment of pipe. But if a water main has been lined or fully replaced, we don't expect to see water main breaks on new sections of water main.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, second time speaker, Councillor Maureen Wilson.
Thank you. If I could just pick up on Manager Alberton's distinction there, please. On the distinction between lining and rehabilitating or providing new, could I just better understand the conditions or circumstances that would cause staff to determine that something is a good candidate for lining versus new? And then I'll let you parlay into what's going on Main Street right now and why that's a good candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Through the chair. So lining is a rehab program that we have for water mains that have breaks, and if we do replacement, that will disturb the area. So lining would be used on areas that are more congested, just such as downtown. Main Street is a good example that we were talking about. There was lining that would also take place in complex situations such as Kenilworth. We also did a lining project recently on 90-inch, which was near Woodworth. So it based on complexity of the location, is based on the complexity of the project itself. And also we want to make sure that we have the minimum disruption.
Thank you
so much. So through the chair, if I just might add on one component, lining does not increase service associated with the pipe. And so any time where we are aware that there are developments taking place that require more water in that area, lining is not a candidate for that because we actually need a bigger pipe, whereas lining replaces the existing pipe like for like. It doesn't provide anything bigger.
So thank you. Just on that point, however, my understanding, and please correct me because I do think this is important public information, the subsurface along Main qualifies or is a good candidate for lining because both of its age and right now the pipes are, this is my really good engineering term, gunky, like they're like a bad artery. So the balloon goes in, blows it out, extends the life. It's really cost efficient for us to do this work now on Main as opposed to resurface it, dig that up, have breaks, and go in with a much more expensive non-trenching method after. That's kind of what I'm seeking clarification on through the chair.
Through the chair, again, Brian from Engineering Services. Yeah, I think you summarized it well, and we made that decision process across a number of directors, taking into account different factors, including the fact that the main on Main Street, the local service main, wasn't providing the capacity it was designed for because it was tuberculated. And so cleaning it out and lining it increases flow. And we even worked on the development side of things and suggested that we could accommodate a lot more development on that corridor through the lining program. And there's other infrastructure way down the road in Main Street that would be an opportunity for full replacement. So it seemed to be the right solution for that corridor.
Thank you. So it was gunky. It's cost efficient to do it now, and it helps take the intensification that some of my other colleagues may not wish. Thank you. On to my second question. If I could just understand, please, the relationship between the water main rates and our capacity to do what we need to do in our rehabilitation and to address this problem. My thesis is that when we had the lowest rates in the province, that was not a good deal for Hamiltonians because it ended up costing us at the other end with poor service, water main breaks, and terrible costs of reconstructing a road.
So through the chair, I would agree with your perception or your experience. And one of the messages that I deliver to council is we end up spending the money one way or another. We can spend money in our water, wastewater, stormwater systems proactively and get the best possible value for the things that we need to spend, or we can spend it reactively. And when we're spending reactively on repairs, catastrophic failures, we do not get good value for our ratepayers and taxpayers. And so that speaks to the importance, the responsibility for good asset management practices and planning. And council and committee have heard a lot about the progression of the city's asset management plans going back to 2022. And so those asset management plans absolutely do inform budget development. We have, I will say it this way, there is a lot of money that needs to be invested in the city's water, wastewater, and stormwater systems in order to, one, maintain the current service levels, but to put a dent into our backlog and actually increase grades for conditions of our assets. That's an even more significant expense that the city is going to have to come to terms with. Now, we do have that built into our budgets presently. We have an aggressive rate strategy. It is largely focused on the city's affordability for some of our aging facility assets, and so our wastewater treatment plants, our water treatment plants, but it's very much on our radar that that same level of investment is going to be needed in the future to address into our liner systems, in our pipes, to replace and upgrade that infrastructure to make sure that those services are still available. As we wait for opportunities, because we can't do everything all at once, we are monitoring and planning for risk. And so you'd mentioned earlier, Councillor, the Calgary water main failure, the Montreal water main failure from last year. Mm-hmm. One of the things that is missing from both the province of Quebec and the province of Alberta is they do not have a drinking water quality management standard similar to what is in place in Ontario. And so one of the great things about drinking water quality management is that there's a disciplined process where on an annual basis, city staff are getting together and we're evaluating risk. Where can we tolerate risk? Where can we not tolerate risk for these infrastructure assets? And that's been going into our infrastructure rehabilitation and replacement planning now for just about 20 years. And so we're aware of where we have challenges because we've been having those conversations across our teams for so long, and we've programmed inspection and rehabilitation replacement programs accordingly. With that said, there is there's more of an awareness of the risks of critical failures now, particularly for transmission infrastructure coming out of both of those provinces, Quebec and Alberta. And so we have programmed more inspections for those critical assets to give us additional information. We are seeing here in 2026, based on a number of inspections that were delivered in 2025, we're doing a lot of transmission main repairs. We've been doing them over the winter months, which is not something that we typically did. But because we prioritize the inspection, found leaks on those pipes, we've been able to do those repairs over the winter months here in 2025. We're doing similar inspections throughout 2026, and we'll anticipate more of those repairs moving into 2027. And this is all about keeping our risk at an associated level while we focus on other needs in the system, but building towards those broader plans for rehabilitation and replacement of our city's pipes. I hope that helps.
It does. Just a final comment from me, and I know we want to get on with the agenda. I say this respectfully, and it is much our responsibility, if not more, than staff's, in that, in my experience, there is a disjointed nature or experience between some of the asset management information and facts that we hold, and then when we get to budget. When we're in budget, as the budget chair who has to go through those things in a lot of detail, I don't get that expression of urgent. And I don't get that criteria of need. And I think it was my colleague, Councillor Alex Wilson, who at the end of this year's exercise said something similar, but much more eloquent. We received a report on the status of our recreational facilities, which were, if we do not dramatically change how we're funding and increase funding, we are going to see our recreational assets, which are strictly local, there's no fuzziness on who does what here, shutting down. And if it's anything like these, which is almost half in the lower city from wards 1 to 5, it's going to be those very children who don't get to go to a private cottage, who don't get to go to any other facility. This is it for them. And I think the responsibility is ours to rearrange, reimagine, and inform our budget process so that we have less sleepless nights on our transmission stuff and on all of our assets, because I think that exercise needs to be more complementary, and I'll take that responsibility on, but I'm finding this is disjointed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That exhausts our speakers list. The report's been moved and seconded. Thank you to staff for a response to all the questions. All those in favor, please show of hands, vote. Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. And welcome to Councillor Spadafora, who joined at the beginning of this item. Next up is agenda item 8, public hearings. As required under the city's bylaw number 14-204, a public meeting is required. Notice of this public meeting was provided and posted on the City of Hamilton's website. The notice advises that anyone whose lands are prejudicially affected may appear before committee, and the clerk has advised that there's 2 individuals who have pre-registered to delegate today. So we'll hear from them first. And there's also a correspondence on the agenda as well. And I'm just going to pause here for a quick second to confer with Elsie. Got it. Thank you. Okay, so first up we have, sorry. Where? Susanna Duft. Thank you. Susanna Duft. Yeah, come on forward. Good afternoon, Susanna. When you're ready, let us know.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Before I begin, may I ask for just an additional minute? I'm pretty close to the 5, but just can relax me a little bit through this process.
Sure. Could I get a mover and seconder to extend by 1 minute? Councillor Huang, second by Councillor Pauls. That does require an electronic vote. And just take a moment to load the vote. And Councillor Jackson, I see your vote affirmative. It's the first electronic vote of the committee meeting. It does lag in the system, so bear with us.
That was my minute.
Okay, the vote should be up for committee members. Oh, I'm lying. It says voting in progress on my screen. Should we just do a manual vote? Any opposed? No. Seeing none opposed, that carries. So you have an additional minute there.
Thank you.
So please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Susanna Duff, daughter of the legacy and historical owners of 2 Walnut Grove, the property abutting the road allowance. I'm also one of the co-contributors to the naming of Walnut Grove back in 1981. I'm honored and compelled to represent my parents, my home, neighborhood, and community of over 53 years. Having grown up here, I can speak to many aspects of the neighborhood and property as observed over half a century. Furthermore, in 1974, the town of Dundas agreed that our family would care for this property, which included the responsibility to physically and financially maintain and landscape it. My mother and father, Monica and Harry, were true stewards of this land, and never in over 50 years has the town of Dundas nor the city of Hamilton touched this property. First, we must ground this decision today in a land acknowledgement of the traditional territories we stand upon. The land we speak of is part of the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, and we have a collective responsibility to continue to steward this land sustainably and align with the city's existing climate goals and strategies without ignoring, compromising, or contradicting them. I'm advocating that the Overfield Road allowance be preserved as permanent open space. In preparation for this meeting and in formulating my letter of opposition, which you have a copy in the agenda, I was impressed with the many positive initiatives, goals, and strategies the City of Hamilton already has in place, essentially offering a clear vision to a positive outcome and a solution for the best scenario and use of this parcel of land. I am here to discuss with Council how the closure of the Overfield Road allowance already has a favorable path without compromising the climate emergency declaration, which mandates every municipal decision be viewed under a climate lens. But I must say that the very notion to sell this land as a buildable lot goes against every climate action strategy goal for Hamilton and the Parks Master Plan, especially as we look through the climate lens as mandated. That it's even considered is perplexing. My reasons of opposition are listed in my letter sent to Public Works in March. But in addition to this letter, I've provided a proposal that incorporates many directions and initiatives Hamilton already has with their climate action strategies without contradicting the climate emergency declaration. This proposal offers the community, which includes an ever-growing aging population, residents of the St. Joseph's Villa and their family, and the Villa Estates who regularly frequent this area, a small, inclusive, and accessible parkette, a safe place to rest out of a 3-way intersection. And yes, many do convene in this space. A few benches surrounded by native trees, landscaped with native plants will not only beautify this area more, but invite the villa residents to physically be and feel a part of their neighborhood, included along with others in their community. Under the 2023 Parks Master Plan, the city identified a critical need for parkland in established neighborhoods, and the 2026 budget specifically allocated $33.9 million to acquire and develop parkland using existing city-owned assets. Deeming this a buildable lot for a single private residence would be a missed opportunity to utilize land already owned to meet public green space targets. And I will add that under the provincial planning strategies, this road allowance is a natural heritage area, and developing would fragment this contiguous land, violating the intent of the PPS, which prioritizes the protection of high-functioning natural heritage systems over private residential expansion, essentially an unbuildable lot. Therefore, I'm urging Council to recognize this land as a vital piece of our future green network, not as a surplus buildable lot. Here's a great opportunity to put into action existing city plans and strategies and stay fully in sync with the Climate Action Plan. I recommend Council direct staff to retain this land as permanent green space, ensuring our land use decisions reflect our stated climate goals. Invest our 2026 parkland funding here to create a community asset that breathes, rather than a development that builds over climate targets. And I urge Council to withdraw this lot from the buildable market and instead integrate it into Hamilton's Park Master Plan, or leave as is, as it was for over 50 years. This property, a natural heritage area, has been a buffer, part of the subwatershed, a natural corridor for the fauna, and has met all climate goals for over 50 years. Let's maintain that stewardship and ensure a future that protects green space, honors and acknowledges our elders, and meets our climate targets without compromise. Let's put our words and our goals into action and turn a buildable lot into a lasting community legacy. And I'm just going to now switch over to the images above. Bear with me, that's why I needed that extra minute. So this is the proposal that I'm offering. Here we're looking at the Overfield Road allowance as seen from the intersection. A drone image here is identifying the two abutting properties, 2 Walnut Grove and 54 Tally Ho, and the two red lines are showing the parcel of land. Here encircled in white is a heritage tree estimated to be over 100 years old. We call her the grandmother walnut tree. Another image of her from the backyard of Walnut Grove, our mother tree, again over 100 years old. I'm going to move over these quickly to save some time, but this is just to emphasize the concrete infrastructure and density in this particular area. And the yellow markings here are just to identify the properties surrounding that red area, which is the road allowance, just to identify the disproportionate size of that road allowance parcel to the existing properties around. Okay. Here we are back at the intersection. It's a 3-way stop. It's a school bus zone, and that is the road allowance. Squeeze in. This is AI generated, but you squeeze in a house. You now put a driveway into the intersection. Add our seniors in the mix, and this is reality. There are seniors come to this area. This is the end of Overfield Road, and they come and they convene here. You can see what can this lead up to. So that's, and so this is my solution, or proposal anyway, to bring them out of the intersection, a social space designed to encourage interaction and community involvement. Minimal disruption to the existing land, the natural corridors preserved, the buffers maintained, and the fauna protected. The design ideas are endless, the potentials are infinite, and I see that we probably have 3 options. Keep the open space, leave as is, as it has been for over 50 years, add a lasting legacy community parkette, resting safe space, accessible, inclusive, open space is still preserved, and climate goals are all met. Or 3, adding this in here, we're compromising all our climate goals, and I think I've gone over my time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation and your delegation. Committee members, are there any questions on this? Thank you. Councillor Huang.
Thank you for your delegation. I just wanted to ask, what is beyond the, because it's cut right in the middle, and I know that it, like based on the pictures, it kind of looks like it could connect further. What's on the backside of that little bit of property?
Thank you. Through the chair. That's a great question, and I would really love to see some of our councillors actually be present on that property, because the pictures don't give it justice. But there is a large hill beyond that intersection, so it's quite a higher grade, and then it proceeds down into a slope of the ravine. So it's connected directly to the Hamilton Conservation Area, and I have noted my concerns about any kind of development on that land and the disruption to the level and grade, as well as the direction. This is a natural corridor that has been never touched, and it's been a pathway and a trail for our deer, fauna, fox. It's a resting area. I think I have even more images, but I've lost my scroll, so I can't. I have more images to show you a little more of the deer, and it's like there's herds that come through there daily.
And then just because I couldn't really see, you said that the grandmother walnut that you've highlighted in your pictures, will they be inside of that little red zone? That
Yes.
Okay.
And the drip line. I think Nancy will speak to that as well.
Okay.
Through the chair.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for your delegation.
Thank you.
There's no further questions, so thank you so much for coming this afternoon to delegate.
Thank you.
And we'll go next to Nancy Greenspoon, who is also pre-registered on this item for public hearing.
Oh, I was just going to. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Madam Chair and members of the community, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak here today. My name is Nancy Greenspoon. I live at 54 Tally Ho Drive. My property abuts the property we're talking about. I have some pictures that should give you an idea. It's not working. Okay, so this is the property, and you can see more clearly the large walnut tree. It's just above that stop sign. I have a few points I'd like to bring forward. Firstly, the disruption to the ecosystem. The biodiversity is at risk. Development of the site risks disrupting the local ecosystem, including flora and fauna, and especially species dependent on the natural habitat. There are deer, foxes, birds, bunnies that travel this route, even more now with Margaret's Place having been built adjacent to this and taken away some of their land. The second is the slope of the property. You can see a bit, there's a retaining wall on my property. There's quite a slope, and it would require extensive grading and landscaping, significantly altering the natural landform. And one of the people here mentioned about disrupting the soil and disrupting the whole property that has been there for over half a century. And we're worried that that's going to impact drainage, et cetera, on our property. This is the heritage black walnut tree. It is a heritage asset with ecological and historical significance. The drip line needs to be protected, impacting any construction, and also the slope. We don't want to have any problems or losing that tree. The natural drainage concerns, impacts, or abutting properties, alterations to the land could disrupt natural water flow, leading to flooding or water pooling on neighboring properties. Most important is the unique character of the neighborhood. The area's tranquility and history is integral to its identity. The natural beauty and green spaces contribute to the community's appeal. Development could undermine the efforts to preserve the resurgence of local heritage and the neighborhood's unique charm and senior population. One more point I'd like to make is that this property is in the middle of an intersection. The driveway would be very unsafe for backing out, considering the safety of all the seniors and children in the area. The Hamilton Conservation Authority did recommend the lands to be retained by the City of Hamilton. Any potential future development, if any, would remain subject to Hamilton Conservation Authority policies and permitting requirements. And the Landscape Architectural Services also mentioned possible future trail. Forestry acknowledged that it's a wooded lot. Development must consider environmental sustainability, heritage protection, and community values. We propose that the land remain under the ownership of the City of Hamilton, with maintenance responsibilities undertaken by the abutting landowners at their own expense. In summary, we are here today to present you with all of our concerns as a community. We understand that this is our only public presentation. All the neighbors are deeply concerned and upset at the possibility that our very limited green space will be destroyed. It feels it's part of the Dundas Conservation Area and the beauty of Dundas. Any questions?
Thank you for your delegation. We do have a council member, nope, two, that have questions for you. First up is Councillor Maureen Wilson.
Thank you for being here. It is a beautiful area. I think you said on the public record that you live on Tally Ho. What would be the age of your house or the subdivision generally that you're in?
My house is 17 years old. There was an old house on the property that was torn down, and the rear, like the foundation, and it was put in the exact same spot.
And the age of your subdivision generally?
I guess
your neighbors?
Up to Susie, it's 52 years old. Mm-hmm. So that property was, we have maintained half, and our abutting neighbors maintain half, just as to beautify it, and it's been planted. I actually think that people should come out and take a look at physically what it looks like. so you get a better idea.
Thank you.
Sorry, that was through the chair. Sorry.
No worries, thank you. Next up, we have Councillor Beattie who has questions.
Thank you, Nancy. I was listening to the first presenter, and you offered another layer of dimension to the conversation. I saw in both the presentations yourself and the other one earlier, and then just kind of pulling it up on the old, hopefully reliable Google Street View. It does look like it's just beautifully maintained and blends seamlessly into the surrounding neighborhood. You'd never even know that really there was a road allowance there. I was going to ask if you participate in the maintenance of it, but you answered that question before I had the chance to ask it, but maybe if there's any additional detail, the history of maintaining that property, and how far back that may go, anything else that you wanted to color the situation with?
Through the chair, since we've been there, and prior to us, the owners prior to them, I believe we have divided in half. We cut and fertilize and maintain and keep it natural. I mean, it's been planted, it's got a lot of forsythias and beautiful evergreens, and it's a forested looking property that slopes up quite high and then drops down into the Dundas Conservation Area and the river down below. I mean, it's a pretty big drop. And like we said, the deer are constantly going, the bunnies, the foxes, many birds, and it's just so natural that nobody, like when we, unfortunately, most of our neighbors did not know about this proposal at all. And so when we just spoke to a few of them, they were totally shocked, and nobody could believe that that actually could be a building lot. We're not even actually sure that it can be because of the grade and of that walnut tree, that the perimeter needs to be, the drip line needs to be protected, and it's quite sloped. So we just, like to keep things the way they are, or what Susanna suggested.
So your preferred option would be leave well enough alone?
For sure.
Okay. In terms of this, I mean, this is a public thoroughfare technically, or it's a public right of way, unopened. Is there any public access? Do you have people that kind of wander through there on their way down to the conservation area?
Okay, through the chair. Warren Park is 4 houses down, and that is basically where there is a maintained path down into the ravine. So this is more of a natural beauty element. What it was, not maintained, but conservation did have a say in it in the past. And so nobody actually would consider going down there when they know Warren Park is 4 houses literally over. But it's for the animals, this is their spot.
So it's become a nice naturalized area in the community.
It's naturalized, but it's also groomed a bit, so it fits into the neighborhood. It's not wild. We take care of it at our own expense.
I can see through the pictures.
It's beautiful, and everybody should take a drive out to Dundas.
Absolutely.
And take a look at it.
Okay, and through the chair, just to kind of sign off. So again, your preference would be like just kind of leave it alone, and
we'd be happy with that.
Okay. Right. No further questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are no further questions from council members, so thank you for your delegation.
Thank you. We're okay to go.
Yes, you're okay to leave if you need to. There's also correspondence on the item as well, so I just wanted to draw committee members' attention to that. So are there any other members of the public wishing to address committee on Public Works Report 26037, which is the closure and sale of a portion of untraveled road allowance at Overfield Street in Dundas? Are there any other members of the public seeking to speak on this item? No, it's just new speakers only. Any others seeking to speak on this item? Seeing none then, third and final time, may I please have a mover and seconder to receive the delegations and the correspondence on this public hearing matter? Moved by Councillor Huang, seconded by Councillor Beattie. Thank you both. All in favor, that's a vote by hand. None opposed, and that carries. Next up, if I could get a mover and seconder to close the public meeting, as there is nobody else indicating. Thank you, Councillor Spadafora, Councillor Huang. And that will be an electronic vote.
Councillor Kassar? Councillor Kassar?
It's a vote in favor.
Yes.
And carried. The public portion of the meeting is closed. And now on to the report. May I please have a mover and seconder to put the report on the floor? Councillor Huang, thank you very much. Councillor Cooper. Any discussion on the report? First up is Councillor Crutch, encouraging committee members to indicate on the speakers list. Go ahead.
Thanks very much. So when I look at the report, I understand, I want to say up front, that city staff met the technical requirements that they needed to meet in terms of completing their report. They reached out to abutting landowners and went through the process here. But when I read the report, there's some things in it I don't quite 100% understand. So there were 2 abutting property owners. So based on the survey here, we asked 2 people what their opinions were on doing this. Both are opposed to doing so. And that's the measure we have right now because we've done that kind of technically. And so it's hard for me to look at something like a citywide decision when we have the opinion of 2 people on the formal record. So I'll say that firstly, even though I know that was technically required, I think that maybe that was a missed opportunity to consult more widely. But my question is, I think what's happening here is an applicant has asked for this alleyway to be closed. And what's going to happen, if I understand it correctly through real estate, is we're going to retain the alleyway. I'm confused about the retention piece here because it seems like there's other parties who are interested, and then real estate says, well, we'll negotiate the sale, but it doesn't say with whom. And I obviously think that the applicant who paid the fee would have some preference in that negotiation. And then there's other suggestions here saying if it doesn't sell, then we'll retain it. I just don't understand what the actual process looks like. What's a time? What's an arc, right? We close the alleyway, then what happens next, then what happens next, then what happens next. So can someone answer those questions?
Through the chair, I think those questions are best first directed to real estate. And if they aren't answered by real estate, I think Leah McNamara is online. I can speak to the process in the report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, Leah McNamara, Manager, Strategy and Portfolio Planning in the Corporate Real Estate Office. So the Corporate Real Estate Office were the applicants for this closure of public right-of-way. The ultimate strategy for the site has yet to be determined. We recognize there's interest from adjacent property owners, and there's a potential interest to retain in a naturalized state. So at this time, the direction was for real estate to have authorization for potential disposition, should that be the strategy, but that has not been finalized at this state.
Thanks. So I guess I'm just confused as to what we're exactly approving here. So if we don't have a disposition strategy at this point, are we just saying that we approve that the sale of this portion of roadway can be closed and then we'll come up with the strategy later? Does the strategy come back here? I'm also mindful that the Ward 13 councillors in here, so that makes it extra tricky in terms of a decision today, and maybe that's something worth deferring if this isn't an emergency. But before we get to that, I just wanted to understand, if we don't have a disposition strategy, how are we best informed upon making a decision here?
Through the chair, the closure of the public right-of-way would allow us to do a few things with the land itself that we're unable to do in its current state as right-of-way. So it would create a proper property parcel that we could divest to the adjacent property owners should interest reside. It would also allow us to sell in the open market should we deem the site to be developable in its current form with naturalized limitations that exist. Or it would allow us to convert the land into a more public-facing asset in some form of a parquet or some sort of a public use. So we'll still work through those decisions. Ultimately, the report is written giving us authority to proceed with disposition should that be the decision that the Corporate Real Estate Office, in consultation with city groups, come to.
Fair enough. I think I understand what you're saying. I think I just disagree with us not knowing what's going to be happening with the land and making a decision kind of saying, dispose of it as you wish, leaves me in a bit of an awkward spot. Usually we have some line of sight to the disposition strategy in terms of what's going to happen. We understand exactly what the applicant's going to do, and we understand where it's going to end up and what it's going to serve. Here, we're just sort of saying, we'll do this and leave it to a strategy we have no sight to. So for me, I can't support that. And again, I'll say that maybe if it's not urgent, last question is this urgent, or can this wait until the future attendance of the Ward 13 councillor?
Through the chair, I would not state there's anything urgent about this situation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councillor Beattie.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Read through the report and noted that there are no alternatives given. And it strikes me that I asked myself the question, what problem are we trying to solve here? And I don't actually see a problem. I see a lovely maintained piece. Yeah, it's technically a right-of-way that could be opened up for through travel, although highly unlikely because of the destination is a conservation area. What would happen if we chose to vote against this recommendation? Would it just stop here and we continue on, leave it as a road allowance, and everything continues with status quo? Through you, Chair.
Through the chair, as authors of said report, Engineering Services, and just I think everyone understands the process here. We receive the application, in this case from real estate. We go through the circulation. The comments and objections are noted in the report. Typically in these types of reports, we don't provide a lot of alternatives because it is fairly black and white. Stop up and close the road or not. And I think that would be the case here. Sorry, could you repeat the last part of your question there, Councillor Beattie?
Certainly. Through the chair, what I guess, Brian, I'm just trying to understand is the decision point is to either stop up and close the road allowance or to not. And so there's no alternative given other than to vote against the recommendation if this body decided that they didn't see the value in going down that road, pardon the pun. Noting that, as my colleague from Ward 2 said, there really isn't a strategy developed about if we did start this process, then what? And without knowing that, I know that it's a chicken and egg conversation, but I'm struggling in trying to, again, coming back to the beginning, seeing what problem I'm trying to solve. So to reframe the question, Director, are we really faced with voting against this motion as written, or this direction as written, if we did not see the value in closing the road allowance and starting this process through the Corporate Real Estate Office? Is that really the only decision?
Through the chair, I'm going to, if he's online, I believe he is, call upon Dave Lamont. Just to talk a little bit about the process. I don't want to say, it's okay not approving it if there's time limitations where somebody can't come back again for eternity or not. So Dave can comment on that process. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much. Through the chair, David Lamont, manager of Geomatics and Corridor Management. So we receive applications. I'm and we process them, and this is where we are right now. And what we're trying to do here is to process these stop up and close and retain, which means they'll still be owned by the city, and they can do with it after what they want. For example, if you vote no on this today, and the two abutting neighbors decide they want to purchase a portion of it, we have to go through this process again. Where if we accept it today, it's basically transferring the asset from our friends in transportation, and transferring the asset to our friends in real estate to manage the land moving forward. So that's what we're really trying to do is take away the public highway status of this and leave it as just a piece of land we own, similar to what we do with parkland today. And the speakers today expressed interest in beautifying and making it a parkette, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how that would be. But we're taking away that portion of the public designation of a public highway, which means it transfer the asset, and I think that's and to vote this down today would mean that if the neighbors decide in the next couple of months or couple of years they want to buy a portion of it, they want to acquire whatever portion of it they want, we'd have to go through this process again. But if we go through this process today, stop up close, we have council direction to proceed with the closure of the public highway and retain it for public use after the fact. And that allows our friends in real estate to have more freedom in dealing with any inquiries that come, no pun intended, down the road. Does that help your question through the chair?
Thank you for that, Dave. Always appreciate your insight on this. I think I understand. It just seems to me that where we are in our process of decision making, I don't know that the community's been brought along to the same level of understanding. That doesn't seem that they understand this process. So as a third alternative, we can vote in favor, we could vote against, we could defer this. I think that's been suggested. And I see some nodding heads that may be coming forward. Because I think we want to handle this with sensitivity, and we want to not be seen as placing the future of the property in jeopardy so as to allow the destruction of what's been going on here. So I'll leave it and see where the conversation going, and if there's a deferral motion or referral motion coming, I'd happily support that.
Thank you, Councillor Beattie. Next up, we have Councillor Spatafora.
Thanks, Chair. I was just looking to move deferral of this item to the next Public Works meeting or the next time that it's sufficient. This way the Ward 13 councillor can be here as well, can do whatever community engagement he needs to do, allow staff to have some more conversations with him. So I'll move that, and if someone would be willing to second that.
Happy to second it as chair, and recognizing that Councillor Alex Wilson is ill and not even able to participate virtually today, so definitely support that as well. So the motion is on the floor to defer this item. And that would require an electronic vote. Oh, question on deferral? Instructions?
What does a future meeting look like? So I don't know, like we're not usually good with like very vague deadlines, so I don't know what a future meeting looks like. I don't know if that's next Public Works or.
Yeah, you're on.
I wanted to leave that up to the ward councillor, who will work with staff and make that decision. Maybe staff needs an extra cycle. Maybe the ward councillor needs an extra cycle. So I'd like to leave it with the next meeting and let Councillor Wilson make that decision as he works through the process.
Appreciate that response. Thank you. And then as chair, we'll be able to clarify a date in order to help manage the OBL as well. So happy to report back on that as well. Okay, it's been duly moved and seconded, clarified instructions, and it's before committee for vote. That carries. Thank you all. Next up, we have item 9, items for consideration, PW 26027, which is Highway 52 and Powerline Road intersection improvements, municipal class and environmental assessment in Ward 12. This item does include a presentation. So we'll take a moment to enable staff to get set up. Just experiencing a bit of technical difficulty in getting the presentation operational.
Chair?
Yes.
As we're waiting, I just might introduce the presenter. It will be Dipankar Sharma, Manager of Infrastructure Renewal. We're looking forward to bringing forth this highly anticipated report on a very important intersection.
Thank you for that. And if that laptop can't present, is there an ability to do so through the two LC laptops? And then, okay, we're good to go. Thank you. Go ahead.
Perfect. Good afternoon, Public Works Committee. Thank you for having me here. The purpose of this presentation is to provide you a high-level summary of the process and the recommendations tied to the municipal Class EA project that we have worked on. The project is to look at roadway and intersection improvements at Highway 52 and Powerline Road. All right, in today's presentation, we'll go over an introduction to the project, including an overview of the study area and key planning considerations, the Municipal Class Environmental Assessment, or the MCEA process that was followed, and some of the results coming out of it, and what are the next steps. I also have my team present with me. I have Megan Salvucci, who led the project, and the project manager, Stephen, who can answer any questions after. So let me give you some project background. So the Highway 52 and Powerline Road Environmental Assessment looked at the section of Highway 52 between Powerline Road West and Powerline Road East. All three roads are rural, two-lane cross-sections with one lane in each direction. Highway 52 is a designated truck route. At the intersection of Highway 52 and Powerline Road West, there is a parking lot entrance, and just south of the intersection, there's also a rail trail crossing. Over the years, there has been ongoing discussions about the roadway design, and particularly about the northern intersection. In order to develop and implement a solution, we chose a Class C environmental assessment. There are some additional works that are being completed this year to provide some interim measures until the long-term measures are in place. This is being done through our transportation division. So the Schedule C Municipal Class EA, or the environmental assessment process, consists of 4 phases. And the 5th phase is the implementation, which includes both detailed design and construction. For phase 1, a problem and opportunity statement was developed. Based on the preliminary feedback and the initial data, we confirmed that there were 2 key areas of improvement. The first being the operational safety. We want to make sure that the drivers can successfully and safely navigate the intersection, whether they are driving or turning through the intersection. The second being the active transportation needs. The current facilities require crossing mid-block on a high-volume roadway, which is not safe. For phase 2, the development and evaluation of the alternatives, 6 options were reviewed. These were assessed against 17 criteria with 4 core areas: natural environment, social, cultural environment, technical, and financial. This assessment resulted into a preliminary recommendation to proceed with alternative 2, north roundabout and south left turn lane. This recommendation was confirmed following the first public information center, and it was again confirmed and shared during the public meeting, and it was also posted online. During the phase 3, which is the development and the evaluation of the alternative design, 3 options were assessed against 18 different criteria. This process includes the second formal public engagement opportunity with another public meeting. Through this assessment, the recommended design alternative ended up being a centered roundabout at the north intersection. And in the next few slides, we'll go over some of the key rationale and the benefits for this recommendation. The preferred design reflects the city's complete street principles, which means the intersection improvements are designed for all users, not just the vehicles. On the active transportation side, the roundabout integrates dedicated pedestrian crossings with safety measures such as rectangular, rapid flashing beacons on all approaches. We also looked at the Hamilton-Brantford Rail Trail crossing. This is being realigned through the south leg of the roundabout, which places the existing uncontrolled mid-block crossing of Highway 52 and connects trail users safely across the highway. From a roadway perspective, the roundabout geometry naturally reduces the vehicular speed, which is one of the most effective tools for improving safety at a rural intersection. The design also accommodates large trucks, which is critical given that Highway 52 is a designated truck route. It is also worthwhile noting that there's around 16,000 vehicles per day that uses this road. Green infrastructure is also a part of our design intent. The current center island that is shown on the screen and the splitter island will be landscaped, contributing to a tree canopy, stormwater management, and some visual comfort for the active transportation users. Beyond the user experience, the design also delivers specific measurable safety improvements, which is what the next slide will cover. So safety is one of the main reasons we are doing this project. The core problem today is the drivers on Powerline Road have to turn across fast-moving truck traffic on Highway 52 without any signals or protected turn. They're waiting for gaps, and these gaps are very hard to find. The roundabout removes that conflict entirely. Everyone slows down and takes turns, so dangerous crossings, movement are no longer happening. The roundabout also brings the rail trail parking lot entrance into the intersection rather than leaving it as a separate mid-block driveway on a 70-kilometer-an-hour arterial road. This is a meaningful improvement for the hundreds of trail users, including me, who have access to the parking lot, and particularly what we had noted through our study on a long weekend when these counts are heavy. It becomes a heavier risk. So let's talk about the site. The site sits next to two protected wetlands, a provincially significant natural area. So our solution is a centered roundabout precisely to stay as far from those natural features as possible. No wetlands are disturbed, no woodlands are removed, and everything stays within the existing right-of-way. On the community side, the news is pretty straightforward. No one loses their property. The rail trail parking lot stays open. The Canada Post mailbox stays in place, and no homes or farms are affected. We also confirmed through a heritage assessment that there is no cultural heritage concerns with the preferred design. So the design is just not technically sound, it is also the option that causes the least disruption to the natural and the community environment. This brings us to the part 4, or the phase 4, which is the environmental study report that documents everything we just walked through. So phase 4 is the preparation of the ESR, or the environmental study report, which documents the full MCEA process, the problem statement, the alternative considerations, the evaluation criteria, and the findings. We also document stakeholder engagement and the rationale for this preferred design. The final recommendations out of this process are 2 intersection improvements. At north intersection, Highway 52 and Powerline Road West, a centered roundabout, which provides a great sight distance from north approach, avoids the provincially significant wetlands, and requires no property acquisition. At the southern intersection, Highway 52 and Powerline Road East, a new southbound left turn lane with a painted median, accommodated entirely within the existing right-of-way. The Class D, a high-level cost estimate for the design and construction of both the improvements is approximately $4.75 million. The construction is anticipated to begin in 2028 and last till 2029. So right now we are at Public Works Committee and the Council stage. Should the approval to proceed with the final environmental assessment be given, we will then prepare a notice of completion and commence the 30-day review period. During this review period, the full environmental study report and technical findings will be posted both online and at 3 physical locations. Following the completion of the 30-day review period, the ministry will then review the project for another 30 days. Following these 2 review periods, and any resolutions to a Section 16 order, the project will then move to detailed design and then to construction. And now for any questions.
Thank you for that detailed overview. First up, we have Councillor Kassar.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, and through you. Thank you very much for the work that's been done here. You did a great job articulating all the variables that need to be balanced and taken into consideration, and have come up with a solution that I know that virtually everyone in the community is looking forward to. This has been a topic going on for many, many years, a very dangerous intersection. And the other unique thing about this is what was commented around the rail trail crossing. It is the Hamilton to Brantford Rail Trail. It is a great recreation and commuting trail. Frankly, I've used that for commuting to my mother-in-law's. And crossing that as an adult and also with children, which I've done as well, is a harrowing experience, and I would not recommend it to anyone. So this is taking a step to acknowledge that and make it safer. And I had an opportunity, Chair, to speak with the staff before this meeting, and just wanted to put on the public record, the question I asked was, how are we going to make sure that it is actually will be usable for people on foot, on bikes, or whatever, to cross? Because my first reaction was, well, the roundabout 2 kilometers south of this has been in place for several years, and it's one lane. The one as articulated here, and at least the drawing, which is not detailed design, I acknowledge that, has 2 lanes each way on the roundabout, which increases the space to cross, acknowledging there is an island in the middle. But just wanted to make sure that if we're going to build this, can we build it in the detailed design, looking to the best practices worldwide, not just in nearby jurisdictions, but making sure that it is something that people who don't have a high risk tolerance, frankly, would say, yeah, I would be happy to cross there, and I would have very little concern because I'm comfortable and confident that it is going to be safe. So, not looking for an answer, Chair, because, I'm just re-communicating what was already shared prior. I just want to put that on the record that it's a great solution here. Just want to make sure we get that particular part of it right, because I think for the vehicle travel and the left turn lanes, which was the left turning movement, which was the main concern, has been addressed here, and want to make sure the pedestrian and cycling element is also done well. So thank you again to staff. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Kassar. Next up, we have Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Chair Nan. Manager Sharma, as you did with the Rymal Road expansion, 5-lane last year, outstanding presentation, so thorough, detailed, and you have a wonderful way of delivering the information. So I just have a couple of questions. Generally speaking about roundabouts, I've heard that, and I don't think I have one on the East Mountain. Kenilworth, the top of the Kenilworth access is more of a controlled now roundabout, if you will, and that was through all community involvement, Chair Nan. So the only downside I've heard about roundabouts is that they are not cycling and pedestrian friendly to cross. Through you, Chair Nan, comment from your professional standpoint, please, Manager.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the Chair. That is somewhat correct, somewhat miscorrect. But when you look at a T intersection as compared to a roundabout, the best part about a roundabout is you have to wait for your gap and wait for your turn to come in. And especially when you look at the design that we are proposing, we have beacons and we have security features when you're coming in that will help navigate through the trails to the crossing. So what Councillor Kassar was talking about was rail trail crossing that right now has a bit of a jog into it. So what we are doing is we are realigning both the crossings and hoping when we get into the detailed design with the right advanced notice, advanced lighting, we can mitigate most of the safety elements for it.
Okay, appreciate that answer. Thank you. And just, I guess, the roundabouts I've traversed in our city and other parts of Hamilton, it could be just the moment that I'm there. I just hardly ever see a pedestrian crossing roundabouts because I've just heard that they're not the most friendly, but that's fine. Now, specific to this area, and when I visit friends and cousins in Ancaster along Wilson Street, the several roundabouts at Shaver and I think 2 other streets, you've got signs up there that says for heavy trucks or big trucks may be using both lanes to enter and exit the roundabout. Will this be, given how heavily a truck route this is through you, Chair Nan, how are you going to potentially accommodate that? Or once again, that type of signage may be necessary? Through you, Chair Nan, please.
Through the Chair, Councillor, that's a great question. We have, if you look at the roundabout on Highway 52 in Jerseyville, it's a 1-lane roundabout, and that's why it's heavy on signage around the truck route. Here, we are proposing a 3.5 meter lane width, and there's 2 lanes. So that should help trucks to navigate through this. So we took that in consideration. But also, this is a 30% concept design. When we get into the 60%, those details will also be honed out.
Appreciate that for my edification. Thank you. Otherwise, I'm supportive. Thank you, Chair Nan.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. That concludes the committee members' questions. So at this point, I need a mover and seconder to put the report on the floor as well as seek to receive the presentation. Councillor Cassar, seconded by Councillor Huang. Thank you both. So first would be a show of hand vote on the, no, both of it is all tied together into one electronic vote. Thank you. Councillor Huang. Yeah. Sorry, the Councillor Cassar is indicating a manual vote in favor. Councillor Francis, are you still here? If so, please vote. No confirmation. Okay, that carries. On to 9.2, PW 26028, which is Safari Road Municipal Class Environmental Assessment. And I think we also have a presentation for this one. So as we switch over to staff, just take a couple of minutes to get the presentation online.
Through the chair, once again, I'll take the opportunity to introduce the speaker as things are getting set up. This one will be presented by Senior Project Manager Megan Salvucci. And this is a bit of a different type of environmental assessment, a rural roadway, which we've evaluated a number of alternatives on, and Megan will walk you through those.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, attendees. As Brian said, my name is Megan Salvucci, and the purpose of this presentation is to provide a high-level summary of the process and recommendations tied to the Safari Road Municipal Class Environmental Assessment project that we've worked on to look at roadway and drainage improvement options. In today's presentation, we'll go over an introduction to the project, including an overview of the study area and key planning considerations, the municipal class environmental assessment process that was followed, and some of the results, and what the next steps are. The Safari Road environmental assessment looked at Safari Road between Kirkwall Road and Valens Road. Safari Road is a rural arterial road with a 2-lane cross-section, 1 lane in each direction, and no active transportation facilities. It is a full-time commercial truck route and is abutted by provincially significant wetlands. In recent years, there's been an increase in stormwater and flooding concerns. This has led to roadway closures, initially short-term but now long-term, which has been a challenge for residents and users of Safari Road. Over time, the impacts have become more significant, impacting accesses, properties, and livelihoods. Through a review of the issue, the city's vision for Safari Road and the impacted areas, 2 approaches were developed. One being the municipal drain project, which focuses on private property impacts, and the other being the completion of a municipal class environmental assessment, which focuses on right-of-way improvements. While both the municipal drain and the municipal class environmental assessment are separate projects, they will have complementary results. The need for an environmental assessment was further confirmed through a council motion in 2022 that reiterated Safari Road's important role in resident access and in the transportation master plan, and that the goal should be to complete works required to permanently open the road. Before getting into the rest of the presentation, I also want to acknowledge that this project was extremely challenging. From start to end, there have been many opposing perspectives, and trying to navigate data, public feedback collected through previous planning documents, public feedback collected through this project, the concerns of residents along Safari Road, and community advocates, this has been complex. Decisions made throughout the course of this project truly took into consideration all of these different factors, and I hope you will see that over the course of this presentation. To develop the solution for the right-of-way, and in accordance with the council motion, a Schedule B municipal class environmental assessment was carried out. The Schedule B process consists of 2 planning phases, and then an implementation phase, which includes both construction and detailed design. Phase 1 of the planning process is the development of the problem and/or opportunity statement. Typically, this is developed based on known challenges and through existing conditions or recommendations from larger studies. For this project, we had data identifying preliminary issues and general direction from council, but we also received a substantial amount of public concerns and stories. In response to this, we voluntarily held a public meeting for Phase 1 to ensure that we really heard and understood the concerns of residents and road users. Through the review of this data and input we received during Phase 1, it was confirmed that there were a number of issues that needed to be addressed. The first being drainage. The current conditions prevent the road from being operational, and roadways should be able to address not just daily drainage, but also storm events. For active transportation, there is currently no active transportation infrastructure along Safari Road. For truck accommodation, there is a need to ensure the road is opened and designed in a manner that supports the truck route network. And for safety, concerns were voiced about a few different safety aspects, whether it was the road being closed, water covering the road, or the fact that when the road was open, active transportation users were sharing a lane with truck traffic. For Phase 2, the development and evaluation of alternative solutions, 3 options were assessed: do nothing, close the road, and raise the road. These options were assessed against 6 core areas, including technical, socioeconomic environment, natural environment, archaeology and cultural heritage, and cost. This process, or phase, also included the second public meeting for the project. Of the 3 options, option 3, raise the road, was recommended going into the public meeting. While it will obviously have impacts on the area, there were a lot of benefits associated with it, which I'll go into more detail over the next few slides. Option 1, do nothing, was eliminated as it did not address any issues identified through Phase 1 and has detrimental impacts such as roadway safety, reduction in access to abutting properties, and environmental harm from leaving deteriorating asphalt in the ecosystem. Option 2, close the road, was also eliminated. Similar to option 1, it does not address any of the issues identified during Phase 1 of the project. It would also significantly disrupt the wetland, as the asphalt would have to be removed without having any of the benefits associated with option 3. It would be costly, as it would entail asphalt removal, property buyouts, the construction of 2 cul-de-sacs, and reinforcement of other roads and structures to accommodate truck traffic, and it would not significantly impact maintenance costs or efforts, as both cul-de-sacs would still have to be maintained. After the public meeting and the formal confirmation of the preferred solution, the project team continued building out the concept to ensure feasibility and constructability. Over the next few slides, I'll provide additional details on the solution and associated benefits. The recommendation to raise the road and implementation of the associated drainage infrastructure will have significant benefits on drainage within the right-of-way. The proposed recommendation includes both raising the road and improvements to culvert infrastructure within the study area. This will help not only with the day-to-day drainage, but will also support significant storm events. The recommended solution will ensure that infrastructure is resilient up to the 100-year storm event. The solution will also improve conditions downstream and upstream of this area. Allowing water movement that takes place through culverts will ensure consistency with water levels and will work in support of the natural environment. And then lastly, this project has also been coordinated with the Municipal Drain Project to maximize drainage solutions for the area. This recommendation also allows us to incorporate changes that are in alignment with Complete Streets guidelines for rural roads. Beyond reopening the road and eliminating roadway flooding, the recommendation includes the maintenance of 2 vehicle lanes, 1 in each direction, and the addition of buffer space and a paved shoulder on each side of the road. This ensures that road users have a safe facility and dedicated space regardless of the mode they choose to use. The raised road and improved road base, The raised road and improved road base will restore vehicle access and reestablish Safari as a goods movement corridor. And the addition of buffer space and paved shoulders ensures that active transportation users are not sharing the same space as truck traffic. And then finally, one of the largest concerns we received was about the preservation of and support for the natural environment. We really tried to factor this in as much as possible when developing this solution. The recommended solution does not compromise biodiversity in the area. The way we did this is to ensure that wildlife movement is supported through the design. The recommendation includes culverts that are designed to facilitate fish passage and culverts and dry passages within the wetland segment to facilitate the movement of animals like mammals and turtles. These passages will be coupled with turtle-proof barriers to ensure that wildlife is guided to and uses the safe routes. The road has also been planned in a manner that minimizes the footprint of both the road and the grading, meaning that impacts on the abutting natural environment are also minimized. There will still be some impacts to the area, but through these impacts, we have the opportunity to control invasive species, such as the European common reed or Phragmites, and ensure new plantings are native and provide long-term ecological contributions to the ecosystem. And that brings us to the final recommended solution: to raise the road 0.6 meters, add buffer spaces and paved shoulders, upgrade existing culvert infrastructure, and ensure the implementation of wildlife crossings. Through this solution, we address the concerns identified through Phase 1. We ensure that residents on Safari Road will have access to their homes and livelihood, and it gives us an opportunity to make the road as safe as possible for wildlife and the ecosystem. Right now, we are at the Public Works Committee and Council stage. Should approval be received to proceed with the final stages of the environmental assessment process, we would then prepare the notice of completion and commence the 30-day public review period. During this period, the full project file report and technical findings will be posted both online and at 3 physical locations. Following the completion of the 30-day review period, the ministry will then review the overall project for 30 days, and following the 2 reviews and the resolution of any Section 16 order requests, the project would then move to detailed design and construction. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that overview. We have a speakers list growing. First up is Councillor Jackson. I'm going to name everybody. After Councillor Jackson is Councillor Cassar, then Councillor Cooper, and then Councillor McMeekin. So first up is Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Chair Nan, and thank you, Senior Project Manager Salvucci, for your presentation. I'm sorry I was late for a few minutes at the start of Public Works. I understand even though there's people in the gallery, but no delegations were allowed on this topic, unfortunately. So, but I have done a little bit of homework leading into today, given the lobby across the city, not just on Safari Road, but across the city where everybody seems to want to have input and going in a particular direction, Chair Nan. Through you to SPM Salvucci, your public information centers, exactly what type of feedback did you receive there? And specifically, I understand, again, working through the MPP's office, Donna Skelly's office that represents that area, that there's a half a dozen or so residents that actually live on Safari Road. So can you give me some understanding about the directly impacted SPM Salvucci and beyond that, what your PIC showed? Through you, Chair Nan, please.
Through the chair, there has been a significant amount of public engagement for this, whether it's through the 2 public meetings or on-site visits as recently as last week. The first public meeting was a collection of background stories and information from the residents, knowing that they have extensive history on the site and the issues at play. When we went and had that public meeting, it was kind of along the lines of what we were expecting: a lot of imminent issues, a lot of requests for quick fixes, action in the near future, and a variety of the other topics we talked about. So cyclists not feeling comfortable using the road with trucks, concerns about natural heritage, but mostly about drainage. At the second public meeting, those in attendance, again, really wanted the priority to be placed on a quick solution to enable access to the road again. Overall, we did get a lot of questions and comments outside of the public meeting, but those in attendance at the second public meeting, I believe, generally wanted the road reopened as soon as possible. Thank you.
SPM, thank you. SPM Salvucci, you must be aware that with the lobby I got, I'm sure you must be aware that the lobby beyond the directly impacted homeowners on Safari has wanted to not have your recommended option number 3 to raise and pave the road higher, but has been to instead to just support the preservation of the wetland. Can I ask through you, how have you taken those comments under advisement, and yet you're still coming forward with recommendation 3? Could you elaborate a little further, please, given the environmental concerns that the greatest number of communication I've received have been from that standpoint?
Through the chair, this issue isn't unique to this project. Oftentimes we have a lot of very involved community members, each with a different perspective and passion behind them. So going into this, it wasn't too much of a shock to have those different perspectives. We are aware of the intense concerns about biodiversity and the natural environment. Through the environmental assessment process, we weigh all of those different inputs into the project. So understanding that no environmental assessment is perfect, no construction project we do is perfect, there's going to be benefits and there's also going to be negative impacts from it. The environmental assessment weighs the overall best case scenario, considering all of those factors and still acknowledging that there will be some impacts. So at no point in this study do we say it's not going to have impacts, so we recognize that. When we've heard all of that feedback about the natural environment and biodiversity, I spoke to it briefly on the one slide, but we did put a lot of emphasis into ensuring that when we're opening the road, if that does come to fruition, we're putting in all measures possible to support the natural environment in that area. So that's including wildlife crossings to support both fish and terrestrial animals. That's ensuring that we're removing invasive species in the area that really impacts biodiversity. It's making sure that we're staying aware of what's going on in that area, so if there's changes between now and permitting and the actual implementation, we can adjust. So we still welcome those comments, and so this environmental assessment is alternative solutions, so at a high level. Some of those ideas and concepts to preserve the wildlife and biodiversity will still remain fine-tuned in detailed design, so if there's specifics that others would like us to consider and incorporate, we're open to that.
Am I allowed one more question so I don't have to go back on a second time, please, Chair Nan? Thank you so much. Are you aware of the fact, again, my information through MPP Skelly's office, that the half a dozen or so homeowners living on Safari are not supportive of your option, your preferred option, or any of the other 2 options, but want more time to consult? And that's my last question, Chair Nan, through you to SPM. Salvucci, not a trick question, I'm just sincerely asking, because that's the feedback I've had. They're not supportive of any of the 3 and want further opportunity to consult and meet with staff.
Through the chair. So we've documented all comments we've received to date. If there's other perspectives or opinions that weren't captured in the environmental assessment, and again, as part of today's request, placing it on public review for 30 days, where you'll see the full breakdown of comments received and options evaluated. We more than welcome those comments. However, we did do an intensive public engagement component of this project, and we hopefully captured things within that assessment. I do understand that there's a need for imminent action, though, and that might be done outside of the realms of this environmental assessment.
Thanks for the sincerity of your answers. Thanks for your indulgence, Chair Nan.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Next up, we have Councillor Kassar.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, thank you for the work on this project. And certainly a lot of interest. A couple questions maybe just to start for clarification, because there has been a lot of correspondence about urging committee to choose a different option. Maybe through you, Chair, could you just explain what decision is before committee today? Because there are options or alternatives presented, but it's not pick one. If you can just elaborate on what is happening today, please.
Through the chair, so this stage of the environmental assessment looked at all possible considerations that go into a project, and it recommends the best case solution, so the balancing of all of the different inputs and needs for the area. So the report you have in front of you highlights what that final recommendation is from a technical and professional perspective from the project team and experts associated with the project. The final stage of the environmental assessment process is to place it on public review for 30 days. This does not, and that's partially why we have that second recommendation, it does not begin construction or budgeting associated with it. It's really just acknowledgement that the environmental assessment was completed, and if there's any other outstanding concerns, we can accommodate them. In the event that there were to be changes to it, I think it would have to be reviewed in more detail, and an amendment to the municipal class EA would have to be done, or additional technical work. As the technical work in the environmental assessment, after you pass the phase 2 of it, and all of that kind of more technical, detailed work was completed following the second public meeting, all of that focused on the second, or on the recommended solution that was chosen. So there would be a gap in information.
Right, thank you. And through you, Chair, I wanted to get to that in a second, but first, in one of the appendices, there's the weighting and the evaluation that shows technical, cultural, environmental, and so on, or socioeconomic, excuse me, natural environment, cultural heritage, cost. So technical is 40, socioeconomic is 15%, environment 25%, cultural heritage, archaeology 10%, and cost 10%. Where do those numbers come from? Is that a prescribed process or a weighting of the EA process?
Through the chair, it's not a standard approach, so it's tailored depending on the project in consultation with the consultant we have at the time, internal experts, and through even public engagement that we've heard to date. So that's reflective of the overall analysis and what priorities are accentuated through this project.
Okay, thanks for that. That's helpful to understand. Just through deliberations with committee and council, certainly through the budget process, the cost of anything has been a large area of focus. And in this case, $8.1 million is what is forecasted as the cost to bring this road up to spec. And so that's just one observation, that the cost of residents and tax increases and this focus of this council, my opinion, the cost would be a bigger factor. But okay, and then coming back to the comment you said about other options, would there be a gap in information? So the EA process has recommended this option, and so the committee has before it, this is the option to put forward, and then to go to a future budget process. So is it, what I interpret here is that there's not information on any of the other options on the impact or cost. I think you alluded that to in your presentation. You said there could be significant costs, but could you just confirm that work on costing and other impacts of the other options were not fully fleshed out?
Through the chair, that is correct to a certain extent. So this is a Schedule B environmental assessment. It's a little bit different than the typical Schedule Cs we see, where you really do go into that detail, a little bit more detailed considerations of all of those elements. As the options were eliminated, we did a preliminary scan, and then they were eliminated, and we didn't explore them further. Some of the assessment tied to that is sensitive in nature as well, so we were mindful of that when we were doing the estimates and analysis of what options worked and what didn't.
Okay, through you, Chair, just supplementary to that then, this is a Schedule B, not a Schedule C. Could you just walk us through the rationale for that decision?
Yeah, for sure. So through the chair, the only difference between a Schedule C and a Schedule B is, and why we chose that process, is there's a chart that outlines different project types within the Municipal Class Environmental Assessment Guidebook that the Municipal Engineers Association publishes, and it interprets the Environmental Assessment Act. And so in that chart, the proposed work, so the installation of new culverts, and to address flooding concerns, triggers a Schedule B through their requirements, not a Schedule C. And so that's the process that was followed.
Okay, so it's a technical reason. Okay, thanks for that. As I circulate to committee, I have an amendment that I'll propose and put on the floor at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Next up, we have Councillor Cooper, and then followed by Councillor McMeekin.
Thank you, Chair. So if I understand this correctly, we have a road that's flooding, and it's getting worse. And what we're looking at is, doesn't sound like it solves the problem. It's something that's going to help us get by with what we're finding is happening. What's the root cause of the flooding? Is water being redirected, or what's causing it?
Through the chair, this is a complex area, and there's multiple different sources of flooding and an increase in drainage issues in the area. So over time, storm events have gotten more significant. We haven't kept up with maybe some infrastructure in the area, or there's new infrastructure needs that weren't previously considered when the road was built out. There's changes on abutting properties that might have an impact on it, and just changes in the ecosystem in the area all contribute towards why we're seeing changes on the roadway.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Would any of the changes in the ecosystem be related to dumping?
Through the chair, I believe there are allegations, but that's not something that we cover through the course of this project.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, where would something like that be investigated?
Through the chair, I believe there's a bylaw team within planning and economic development that would look into any concerns tied to that.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, has anyone from that department looked at this at all?
Through the chair, I'm not sure if someone from planning and economic development is here to comment on that or if that's something we can take offline.
Just 1 second, the GM has a comment.
Thank you. Jackie Kennedy, General Manager of Public Works. I just would like to say I think we're here to talk about the EA, and SPM Salvucci has responded indicating wasn't part of the scope there. If there's questions about that, I'd be happy to connect you with the right people offline, Councillor, through the chair. Thank you.
So staying within the scope of the presentation and the report then, Councillor, and if you have any more clarifying questions, as mentioned by the GM, we can continue making sure you get the information you're looking for, but it may not be appropriate at this time.
Thank you, Chair. So really what we'd be saying if we want to go down that path is to defer it.
Sorry, could you say that again? I didn't hear you.
What I was saying is that if we wanted to go down and get that additional information, the only thing we could do today is really defer it.
Deferral would be an option to get more information before making a decision, but I do want to remind committee members that there is amendments that have been tabled for your consideration that have already been indicated by Councillor Cassar, so factor that in prior to any decisions around deferral. But just to clarify, GM?
I think that the question that you're asking about the allegations in properties nearby is really external to what the scope of the environmental assessment is endeavoring or required to review. So deferral of this report would not lead to the inclusion of that. It's a separate process.
So may I suggest then, as your chair, procedurally speaking, if you're looking for further direction to staff, that might be a separate motion, or consider an add-on to the potential amending direction coming forward.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, next up we have Councillor McMeekin.
Thanks, Chair. The couple of questions I was intent on asking have been asked and answered, and so I look forward to the amendment. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor McMeekin. Next up we have Councillor Beattie.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Just seeking some clarification in terms of, I think you gave some insight just a few moments ago, because it sounds like there's a potential of, there's something else at play here, maybe. But this is dealing with it. This is the forum for Public Works. We're dealing with it through the deliberations on this particular issue, but wanting to get a full picture as part of the decision-making process in terms of what else is happening here. What was the best way to go about doing that in terms of an amendment or a change of direction, deferral, referral? Because I think that dealing with it in isolation doesn't really do any justice to the overall decision that we're trying to make here. If you could just restate.
Yeah, so my clarification would be that we are dealing with the environmental assessment specifically within the recommendations of this report and the overview of the presentation you received. If committee members are seeking additional information, that would require specific direction not tied to this report. So you might want to consider another motion that stipulates all the information that committee members are seeking on this file or related, and that would be separate to the recommendations in this report.
Okay, and what would be the appropriate time then to do that? To deal
Yeah,
with
so
this
you have a
separately?
couple of options. So I really respect not doing things on the fly. In order to give committee members the opportunity to get the right language, to make sure it's procedurally correct. So committee members have the option of bringing forward a new motion at council. So when we are ratifying the decisions of Public Works Committee at council, we could move a motion at that time within the PW agenda item at council. Alternatively, you could do it at Okay. Could we get confirmation that the live feed is up? Thank you so much. Okay, back over to you, Councillor Wilson. Sorry that the force was not with us for our technical difficulties today.
Thank you. Lost. Oh, there. Thank you. I don't want my question to come across as challenging the integrity of anyone on the staff, but I'm just trying to understand how the problem statement was devised, because absent from the problem statement is any objective of environmental impact or mediation. Could you help me figure that out?
Through the chair, the problem and opportunity statement was developed based on the overall challenges that we were hoping to address. Natural environment is a feature we consider in 100% of the environmental assessments we do. And so I think we knew from the get-go that that was going to be a big factor in whatever solution we proposed. So the issues identified through the problem and opportunity statement were mostly in alignment with the Transportation Master Plan, Truck Routes Master Plan, Active Transportation Master Plan, the known drainage issues, acknowledging that we would 100% be considering, again, the natural environment with whatever solution we develop. Thank you.
Okay. Oops. Okay. And I thought I heard staff say that just leaving it, which is alternative one, there is environmental impact from, these are my words, beg your forgiveness, everyone, comes leachate over time from the asphalt, whereas is that affirmed if the asphalt is not removed compared to the long-term impacts? These are staff words. Long-term impacts include exposure to potential contamination from road activity, water quality impact, etc.
Through the chair, the material tied to asphalt is not something that is typically suitable for the ecosystem, and it's not something we'd recommend. So both the material as well as the impacts to water quality, so leaving a hard permeable surface near the water is going to increase the water temperature and decrease biodiversity due to the dissolved oxygen levels. So from a few different fronts, keeping the road as is and allowing the flooding to continue is not something we would recommend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And can you help me understand, under the socioeconomic through the chair, some property acquisitions under the alternative that is being recommended, some property acquisition is required for road widening. Can you expand on that so I can understand the significance of it or not?
Through the chair, any property needs associated with the preferred solution would be limited to closely abutting segments by the right-of-way, just due to grading needed to achieve the road base that we're looking to have in this segment. So it would be less impactful than the other option considered of closing the road.
Okay. And is that cost of, I would assume that would be a cost incurred of property acquisition, or I'm sorry, did you say that's in the right of way? And if, is that part of the 8.1 million guesstimate for 2.5 kilometers?
Through the chair, I believe that 8.1 million includes any property needs. So the exact amounts, again, due to it being a Schedule B, we didn't go into as depth design as other projects might. That exact amount will be confirmed during detailed design, but it would be relatively minor in nature.
Okay, thank you for your help.
Okay, nope. Councillor Beattie for a second time.
Apologies, Chair. We were talking about property acquisitions, and it triggered me that in alternative 2, there is a mention under the socioeconomic impact about the required buyout of several properties. And I'm wondering how we might compare and contrast the different options. We're talking about acquisition, I think, on one hand for road widening, but I'm not sure what the buyout of several properties listed under alternative 2 might refer to. If maybe we could get some alliteration on that.
Through the chair, the exact property impact, so if we were to go ahead with option 2, the exact property impacts would need a little bit more refinement based on water conditions at the time, when we actually go to construct it, a few other elements, but right now you would be looking at the property acquisition of between 6 and 10 properties in the area. Or sorry, just as a correction through the chair, at least 4 properties, but potentially more. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I pushed the wrong button. As opposed, okay, so thank you for that. Through the chair, the property acquisition that we're talking about in alternative 3 speaks to road widening, and when we do road widening, we're typically we're purchasing small slivers, portions of properties. In your response, you said purchasing properties, and I'm wondering if you can just define that. Are we talking about buying entire parcels, or are we talking about, again, small abutting remnants or fragments of existing parcels? Just to hone in on what we're talking about in property acquisition. Through the chair.
Through the chair, with the closure of the road, you would need to do full property buyouts due to the removal of access to Safari Road. Without the access, you are making all of those properties landlocked. So those would be full property purchases. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we've exhausted the questions on the presentation. So at this point, I'll have a mover and seconder to receive the presentation. Moved by Councillor Huang, seconded by Councillor Spadafora. All those in favor, show of hand vote. Thank you. Any opposed? None. That carries. Okay, now on to the report. Mover and seconder for putting the report on the floor. Councillor Huang. And I'll second it to put the report on the floor. And then now, Councillor Kosar, you had an amending motion.
Thank you, Chair Nan. Yes, I do have an amending motion. Maybe it'd be helpful to put on the screen, but I have circulated to all committee members. I don't wish to frustrate the EA process. I have some questions to clarify what was actually before us today, and it is to just improve the professional work that was done. So there are 2 parts to the recommendation. A is to continue with the steps that were outlined in the EA process, put it out to the public and all those steps. No changes to that. What I would propose, though, is a different part B here, because what it said in the recommendation was put this forward and have direction to implement putting it forward to a future capital budget as is. So through the conversation today, I think it's been highlighted that there is a lot of information that we don't have in terms of cost implications and whatnot. And there's 2 parts to that. One is around the environmental part of it, which has been virtually all of our correspondence. And on the front page, the first page of the presentation was, I think, a great picture showing the road right through a wetland. So I've included that at the end of the amendment. But my primary concern, actually, which I think would be a concern for almost everyone in the city, is just the cost and not understanding the cost of this versus the cost of the closure, and including the life cycle cost of a road at this level of usage versus every other road we have in our city, and a roughly $100 million, I think, annual spending infrastructure deficit. So when we're looking to be financial stewards, should we be spending $8 million here versus rehabilitating all the roads that are used by tens of thousands of users every day. So the amendment asks to bring more information back while allowing the EA process to continue, bring more information back so that what can be put forward to a future budget actually is something that has been fully vetted, and this committee and council have had an opportunity to consider the pros and cons, financial and otherwise. So it's on the screen there, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. And your seconder, Councillor? Councillor Crutch, thank you. Okay, so we have a speakers list on the amendment. First up is Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Chair Nan. This amendment sounds like it's reopening alternative 2, which is the full closure of Safari Road. So I will not be supporting the amendment. Again, this has been very, very unfortunate that homeowners who live on Safari Road up in the gallery did not have an opportunity to express their opinion to us today. And if you want to be consistent with what we did with Overfield in Dundas 2 hours ago, that the local councillor's not here.
If I may just clarify, that was a public hearing. Public hearing process opens up the process for those who are in the gallery to be able to submit comments to a public hearing. That was the situation for Overfield. The situation on this report and recommendation is that delegations have a deadline to which they have to forward their submissions. And that is followed, and that is procedurally fair and correct. And so it's unfortunate that both scenarios are being conflated. As your chair, I'm holding the procedure correctly, and I don't appreciate the insinuation otherwise.
Thanks, Chair Nan. I still say it's unfortunate that people who have spent hours here today from Safari Road would not have a chance to express how they would be most impacted by a potential road closure and or the staff preferred option. So I'll conclude by saying I'm voting against the amendment. If the amendment carries, I'll vote against the original report as amended. And my comments stand. And again, the Ward 13 councillor isn't here to speak to us about this matter. I don't know where he stands on it, Chair Nan. And I was simply offering a comparison to what Councillor Crutch did with Overfield several hours ago, because Councillor Alex Wilson wasn't here, that we should defer the matter as well. That's where I was going with that comment, to be quite frank with you. Thanks, Chair Nan.
Okay, any other comments on the amendment? Councillor Kassar?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I should have said before introducing the amendment that I have had dialogue with Councillor Alex Wilson on this topic. Unfortunately, they're not here because they're rather ill, wanted to be here, but not possible. So Councillor Wilson is supportive of this direction, and I'm doing that on their behalf.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I'd been activated. In terms of speaking to the amendment, a question to the mover, and as it relates to the impact on people, I guess if we're asking for more information to come back on cost, would you give any consideration to some kind of impact on the residents on the street or the socioeconomic considerations that are outlined in here, but really the direct impact on residents on the street, if there's an ability to incorporate that in to have that information come back at the same time. I don't know if you're agreeable to that or not.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Absolutely. I think the staff had gone through the process with the evaluation criteria. I think it would be actually helpful if all those criteria were fully vetted through option 2. So absolutely want to look at the impact of people and everything else that was done as part of the EA. So if there's other wording that would be helpful to amend the amendment, I'm open to that to make sure it covers that topic.
Okay. So thank you for that. It would be considered friendly if I could come up with the wording to try to have the information come back. But just to understand then, in terms of what's next, let's say we get wording agreed upon studying the impact on residents on the street. If we settle on that and the amendment were to pass, then as part of this package, the EA continues forward. Staff are moving as if we're reconstructing the road. that information then for option 2, for the total cost packaging, impact on residents, that comes back. I'm trying to understand where that intersection of the additional information comes back during the EA process, which is heading down the path of road reconstruction. So where does that all meet?
Seeking response from staff.
I'll give it a shot, and I will invite SPM Salvucci to correct me. I think it's separate from the EA process, though. I think the EA process would go on, and then we would look at the alternative 2 as a separate report back. Is that the...
So through the chair, it does become a little convoluted in terms of what the next steps for the EA are. So we have documentation highlighting a high-level overview of what the other 2 options entailed and why we didn't go ahead with them. Doing a more in-depth assessment of option 2 not necessarily will contradict things we've done through the environmental assessment, but if we went ahead with that option down the line, so if we did the additional work, council decided to go ahead with option 2 instead of option 3, we would have to do an environmental assessment addendum, because right now we have a document outlining all of the reasons and rationale as to why we're recommending option 3. So for transparency and due diligence, we would have to go through that documentation process again to clearly outline why our recommendation has changed from the initial recommendation.
Oh, okay. So then by voting to accept this amendment, we're actually placing ourselves in a contradictory form, because option 3 proceeds, but at the same time, we'd be asking for information to come back to then do a U-turn on that direction at some future decision-making point. Have I kind of encapsulated that correctly?
Through the chair, yes.
Interesting. Okay. I don't have any further questions at this point, and I'm not sure where to go from here. Apologies, Chair.
Okay, are there any other questions on the amendment? Okay, so for committee members who feel a little frustrated in the process, perhaps you'll have clarity in time for council. But in the meantime, the amendment has been duly moved and seconded, and it's before committee for vote. Okay, that carries for now. That carries today. Thank you. The amendment carries. On to 9.3 then. No. Oh, thank you, Councillor Huang. You're absolutely correct. Now we have to vote on the recommendations as amended. Thank you. And that also carries. On to motions. First up, we have 10. Nope. My apologies. Jeez, I'm just trying to get on with the agenda clearly and missing the steps. My apologies. Usually I'm on top of these procedural things. Next, we need to receive the correspondence. So could I get a mover and second to receive the very large list of correspondence on this item? Thank you, Councillor Cassara, second by Councillor Kretsch. And that is a show of hand vote because it's receiving the correspondence. Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries on now to motions. 10.1, which is accessible portable toilets in Hamilton Parks for wards 2, 5, 11, and 14. Over to Councillor Spadafora.
Thanks, Chair. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Francis. This is a motion, as you can see, that's been piled together between wards 2, 5, 11, and 14. Just makes it easier so we wouldn't have 17 individual motions. asking for 17 different porta potties or whatever the fancy word is for these washrooms. So you'll see the parks are listed in there for the different wards, and there are all the money's coming out of each ward's discretion accounts, all that fun stuff. The numbers are in there, and we're going to ask the general manager of Public Works or designate to authorize and direct all the necessary documentation. And hopefully we can get a quick vote and move on to the next one. Thank you.
Appreciate that collaborative spirit of getting all those in one motion. So it's moved and seconded. We have no further speakers on the list. It's before committee for vote. Councillor Francis, we see your thumbs up. Thank you. That carries. On to 10.2, Councillor Jackson.
My apologies, Chair Nan. Thank you. Since the entire world, the last few months, knows all about Broughton East Park, if I could go straight to the therefore be it resolved. Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by the hardworking councillor from Ward 14, Mike Spatafora. Therefore be it resolved that the redevelopment design process of 16 Broughton Avenue be approved to be funded from the Ward 6 Capital Reinvestment Reserve, account number noted, at an upset limit including contingency not to exceed 250 grand, placed on existing project ID number noted, Broughton Park upgrades, and be part that our General Manager of Public Works, Jackie Kennedy, or designate, be authorized, directed to approve, execute any and all required agreements and ancillary documents with such terms and conditions in a form satisfactory to the City Solicitor. Thanks again to the Broughton East Park Citizens Committee, and a special thanks to Senior Project Manager Andrea McDonald and Manager Wes Kindry for their input, helping me with the language of the motion. And staff had put in a placeholder of their own $250,000 over the last couple of years in anticipation of the land swap. And so my $250,000 will be a matching amount with your hopeful approval. And my town hall meeting, much anticipated after 11 years of the long journey, is for Tuesday, May 19th at Michelangelo's. Thank you, Chair Nan.
It's before committee for electronic vote. Thank you. Councillor Francis, are you able to vote electronically? Nope, thumbs up. Thank you. That carries. Thank you. Now, next up is 10.3. Councillor McMeekin, if you would please introduce your motion and your seconder.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor, Chair. This is, it's moved by myself, seconded by my esteemed colleague, Councillor Maureen Wilson. It's a very technical thing. It has to do with a project that's been to the I don't want to read all the whereases.
Please. Yeah, thank you.
So let me just say there's some confusion around what can and can't happen after certain things have been approved and given the blessing of the Ontario Land Tribunal, which means we now need to move with the notwithstanding, or sorry, the therefore be resolved is basically to give authority to move forward to solve a problem that needs a solution, and so I'm moving that. And
Thank you,
if there are any
Councillor
technical
McMeekin.
questions, you can ask staff who have technical expertise in this area.
Very clear and appreciated. Thank you, Councillor McMeekin. I see no speakers on the speakers list, so your motion is very clear. It's before to vote. And Councillor Francis, again, manual vote. Thank you. Appreciated, and that's carried. Onwards to notices of motion. First up is 11.1, Coordinated Phragmites Control Strategy. Councillor Beattie.
believe this is Councillor Tadison's motion, so I don't have the details in front of me, but we'll let it stand as a notice. If there's questions between now and it coming forward at the next PW, please direct them to Councillor Tadison.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Next up is 11.2 Grindstone Creek Bridge 451 Replacement Contingency Extension. Councillor McMeekin, over to you for your notice of motion.
Thanks, Chair. I was 5'8" when I came in. I think I've been reduced to 5'6" somehow, but we'll move forward. Notice of motion has to do with the bridge, very elaborate bridge work at on Dundas Street, which the community and our very wonderful staff, 22 staff members who attended a public meeting, with grateful thanks from the councillor for being there to help sort out some of these things. So I'm moving a motion to suspend the rules so I can put the motion.
And your seconder, Councillor McMeekin?
Seconded by my friend from, thank you.
Councillor Spatafor is seconding the waiving of the rules to suspend the rules to address the notice of motion as a motion today. Before committee for vote, Councillor Francis.
The traveling pen.
Oh, yeah, yes, absolutely.
Okay, waiving of the rules is carried. And then now on to the main motion.
Okay, thanks, Chair. There are a number of whereases, but the bottom line is after a very productive community consultation with about 300 people there and 22 senior staff, we discovered there were some potential changes needed to a contract that had already been entered into that required changing one-way travel east across the busiest road, our Main Street, similar to Main Street in Hamilton, going east, and everybody trying to figure out how the heck they're going to get to work and get home, to creating a two-way system, 12 hours one way, 12 hours back, additional costs of for a light control and the fact that some asbestos was discovered during the repair of the bridge, which resulted in a month of delay while we did a federal environmental assessment and got it all sorted out. So the additional costs which we're looking to approve, and I understand from staff, having worked closely with them, that the money is there. And previously, they would simply go ahead with this out of contingency, but we have a process now that requires it to come here, is $1,254,000. And I'm moving that, seconded by my favorite Armenian councillor, Tom Jackson. And by the way, I'm really pleased to see our Prime Minister visiting Armenia. That's a very, very important visit. Anyhow, that's my motion.
Next speakers list. First up is Councillor Kassar.
Thanks, Chair. And through you, just a couple of clarification questions. So Councillor McMeekin said normally or previously this would have just been handled as a contingency, but now it needs to come through here. So just looking for an explanation on the process change for public consumption, please.
Yeah, through the chair, just a couple clarifying statements. As noted by Councillor McMeekin, there is budget available. It's just in the interest of transparency, we're exceeding the 12% contingency. Using it up largely by these two items, it wasn't, it was just city-led changes to the project, which caused the changes in the scope. And that's put us in a position where we don't have any more contingency for the project. So we thought we would bring this forth in just keeping council informed as opposed to using our discretion and just taking it from the extra budget.
Yeah, got it. Thanks for that. And then just around funding source, because typically a resolution would say funded from reserve, whatever. And it says that overall the project has money, but I'm just looking for clarity on how we need to take more contingency money, but there's still money available. If it just, something doesn't connect there for me, through you, Chair.
This is a case where throughout the year we refine our budget. So in this case, the project came in under our budget that we estimated. It was a favorable bid. So in that case, we have funds in the budget. Over time, as we would bring for projects closer to the finish, we would give that money back to the WIP, would be the proper process, or give it back to the levy. I'm not sure the exact term, but in this case, we do have funds, so we're not asking for any additional money from the levy.
Got it. So procurement process got a favorable result versus the budget, but still exceeding the 12% contingency. But because of the better procurement process, there actually is more funds in the budget. Thank you.
Okay, no further speakers. Committee, the vote is up for your vote. And the thumbs up from Councillor Francis. And that carries. Councillor McMeekin?
Thanks very much to staff for their work, good work on this. Again, I just want to stress that. This was a very complicated situation that caused a lot of anxiety in the community. The changes have brought peace to the community, and a lot of that chaos has dissipated. There's still struggles with all the work that's going on, but thanks to staff and listening very closely to the community, we're moving forward in a very positive way. Thanks.
Thank you for those closing comments and the affirmative motion vote. Okay, so there are no private and confidential agenda items. Thank you to residents who attended today, to Public Works Committee members and staff for all your support in today's meeting. Seeing that there's no further business, this meeting is officially adjourned at 4:30 p.m.